Oh wow. Okay. Well, we're live right now. They can all hear us. I think.
Oh no!
So we're
We
good.
are starting this up. We are starting this on with technical issues. We love it.
Well, Jazz will be here shortly, so I guess we'll just jump right into the watch. On the watch screen. Here we go. All right. Cool. Excellent. So I'm glad that nothing bad's happening right now. Thankfully, we're so early in the chat that I don't think anyone is on yet, so we're pretty good.
Mm. Okay,
So we'll have
cool.
to delay
They're not
until.
gonna.
Oh God, people
This
are on
is
the stream.
fine. Oh no, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Nothing bad's happening. We're okay. We're fine. We're good. We're good. Nothing. There's no technical difficulties at all going on whatsoever. We're totally good. Why'd you ask?
Everything's fine. Everything's great.
Why'd you ask if anything's bad? No, nothing's bad at all. We're totally fine. Totally fine.
Totally fine.
Ugh.
Don't you just love it? Everything's fine. We're all ready to go, and then like 15, and then it's like for the full 15 minutes up until we were prepping for this, everything was okay. We were
Oh
talking
yeah.
just fine, and then as soon as we're streaming, boom, something bad happens.
It's Lily Orchard. She's come in to torture us from beyond wherever she is right now to mess with that stream and knock poor Jazzy out of the stream. I think I heard someone jump into chat. Are you here
Yep,
yet,
I
Jazzy?
believe we have Jesse
Are
back.
you here? Are you
Hello?
here, Jazzy? Good. Excellent.
Yeah,
Everyone's here.
I'm here. Okay.
Glorious. Okay, cool. You were knocked out of chat for a bit, but now we're all here. All right. Well,
Huzzah!
minus that minor technical hiccup. How you guys doing today? How y'all doing today?
Wait, are we live?
We are live.
Yes, we're live. We literally
went
started
live
off
the
by me
moment
just
you
being all
dropped
like,
out.
yes.
Oh
Best
dear.
time
Oh
to go
dear.
live.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Worst tragedies have happened.
Yeah,
I think we'll be fine in the vast scheme of things. So, welcome everyone once again to another evening with myself and these two people who just happened to jump into the streams at some point. I don't know who they are. Mind introducing yourselves, by the way? It doesn't matter who goes first.
You want to go first, Chloe?
Sure. Hi, I'm Chloe Orlick. I also go by Chloe Sunflora on most platforms. I'm a voice actress. I also do a lot of video essays. I'm mainly about my own personal trans experience in coming out and my own sense of identity in terms of the media I watched when I grew up. I'm also known for doing a series I did on 3 parts looking into the series Revolutionary Girl Utena. You probably might have heard about that at some point if you know my work or you've seen me around recently.
Yeah, and it's a great series of videos. I highly recommend you check that out because you go into some depth with one of my all-time favorite anime. I just love that whole video series.
I just had like a huge hyperfixation over the last 3 years with Utena, and I had to get it out somehow, and that was my way of doing it.
You see, for me, that's Evangelion, and I've just never stopped hyperfixating on it. As case in point, like half of my videos are secretly just excuses to talk about Evangelion for like an hour, at least.
Why does that
Fun
not
times.
surprise me?
It shouldn't surprise you because that's my entire life, secretly fanboying about Evangelion. And there's someone else here, Jazzy. Who are you again? Have we met? Have you ever been involved in the channel at all?
Hi, my name is Jazzy Oliver. You might have heard me in a couple of I haven't been in a few. I'm not that important yet. I've been in a couple of Ants video essays reading random. Outside of that, I am a voice actress. You may have heard me in stuff such as Inanimate Insanity and Deadly Night, among many other things, maybe. I don't know. Those are the two people talk to me the most about, so.
Valid. And of course, if you're just joining us today and you haven't seen me before, my name is Ant. I do things. I've written things. I've talked a lot, and I'm just kind of here. The internet apparently hates me, I decided to use my internet anti-clout to attack the one person who the internet hates more than myself. That being Lily Orchard. I'm just kidding. We are here mainly with the goal of examining one of Lily Orchard's videos. If we don't lose our minds in the process, we can do this again with another one of her videos in the future, or discuss her writing tips advice, which I personally feel drove me insane just discussing one.
Ant, are you trying to give me cancer?
Yes, that is my goal. To inflict a cancerous horror upon all the world. This is why I brought copious amounts of alcohol with me to deal with Lily's madness. This drink today is called The Godfather. It is a mix of scotch and amaretto in equal measures. And much like The Godfather, it will remind me of happier times away from Lily Orchard. So that's my entire mentality for that drink.
Fun.
Now,
Me, on the other hand, I'm going into this raw. I pretty much I had a gym session like an hour ago. I'm running off a protein shake at the moment and water because it is nearly 30 degrees over here in Australia. And fuck me, am I not going to suffer through this and also suffer through heat as well?
what a coincidence. It's 30 degrees in New Jersey, too. Well,
Okay, is that Fahrenheit? Is that Fahrenheit?
It's Fahrenheit, yeah. It's Fahrenheit.
Okay, that's significantly less than what I'm dealing with right now.
Oh,
I was gonna say,
absolutely. Different
I'm
extremes.
also going in raw. I don't drink. I haven't. So I stopped drinking when I began my transition. So beginning of 2020. So
100% understand that. And you know what? If you want to go into this raw, you can. If you want to light something up along the way, you can. I will slowly sip this drink. Or if you want to have tea and coffee, that's also valid. I'm going to look at a couple comments here. Jazzy and Chloe, you are both in the comment section of this video.
Yeah,
I like talking to people.
I like just being all like, hey, I'm here as well. And also, it's an easy way for people to find my content as well. Wink,
Valid.
wink, poke, poke.
Oh, by the way, both of your profile links are in the are in the description of this video. At least they should be. I think I put them in there.
You did not. You only like put an at in there.
I think I did, didn't I?
Yes.
I think I did. Anyway, if that's not the case, I can fix it later. Okay, so I'm looking at a couple comments before we get started. The internet hates everything, everyone, and everything, and eventually it's just a matter of time and scale of hate. That's valid. That is valid. Burger King foot lettuce.
Number 1, Burger King foot lettuce.
Considering what we were just talking about, though, that's kind of funny. Before the stream started, Jazzy, myself, and Chloe decided to discuss our love of burgers and try to figure out the best fast food place that serves burgers, or best fast food in general. I was going with Chipotle as best fast food, but in terms of burger fast food, the New Jersey in me has to say Five Guys, but I've never tried In-N-Out Burger or Whataburger, which Jazzy apparently tells me is fantastic, so I'd have
Look, I'm an absolute. I'm not gonna mince words. I'm an absolute whore for Whataburger. Like I don't.
I can also confirm Whataburger is really good.
Right, like I
have
am.
never had it.
Like I have many issues with the state of which I live, which is Texas. But you know what? That place site, the Whataburger. I'm not gonna pretend it makes the other bullshit worth it. But
If I couldn't get shot going over to a Whataburger, I would go to Texas simply just to eat at Whataburger.
Valid. You see, New Jersey, we have tons of fast food places and diners. Nothing beats a diner at like 3:30 in the morning after going to like a pub or something with friends and going to the diner afterwards just to survive with a greasy, cheap burger that was made by a cook who's half asleep. That's one of the best experiences in the world. I will vouch for that. A couple more comments before we get started. Lily Orchard videos require as much booze as Linkara needed when reviewing every issue of Marvel. They're that mind-bogglingly stupid, LOL.
that reference took me back.
Why did you have to remind me that Marvel exists?
I remember watching those videos when I was in high school.
Oh god, I was in college, I think, when those came out.
Hey Lois, remember when Channel Awesome was a thing? It's not anymore.
Listen,
And nothing of value was lost.
Some of the X-Channel Awesome contributors are really cool. You know who you are.
No. Some of the ex-contributors are cool, but none of them will deny that site was awful. So.
Oh no, they'll be ahead of us in line making fun of the site.
Yeah, no. Like if we want to complain, we gotta wait in a long line.
Oh yeah.
They've got the priority line to piss on its grave.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of them actually gave me a lot of advice when I started making videos. That dude in the suede, he's a really cool dude. I like him a lot.
Oh, no. Yeah. Like really I remember, I was kind of I'm a big fan of his videos. So I did kind of have a fangirl moment when I found out that I was voicing in your in your first video essay along with him. So
he reached out. He was really encouraging. I have nothing but good things to say about that guy. He is fantastic. Anyway, so We're getting sidetracked. One more thing. Kyla T, who's also the friend of the channel, who I've known for years. I should get a beer, but I'm eating a salad, and that's just nah. Kyla, get the beer anyway.
Yeah.
This is not a world for figuring out the best palate for your meal. This is a video about Lily
We're
Orchard.
gonna be at this for a while.
Most likely, yeah. Anyway, so before we get too distracted, let me bring in our destiny. We have here Lily Orchard. Oh, now she's Lily and Michaela. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because Michaela's her partner, who also does videos on there as well.
Of course. A pair of comedians and hobbyist writers. Now, a couple things I do want to get out of the way first. I'm not here to mock Lily Orchard. I know for a fact that she has said some awful things and has done some really terrible stuff as well. My intention with this video is purely to look at her critical analysis of media from the perspective of just a media critic in general. Of a writer, from that perspective. Not so much a comedian, because I'm not that funny intentionally, but I digress.
Oh, so I got to provide that perspective. I see. I got to do the heavy lifting.
You got to get the comedian points in here. But
yeah.
I'm sorry, but no, my intention is not to mock her. My intention is, and I'm not going to dead name her either. That's one thing I saw in the comments. I'm not going to.
Oh yeah, like
fuck that
yeah,
shit.
like absolutely. Okay, I think we should lay down some ground rules here.
100%.
Don't fucking dead name Lily. Absolutely do not misgender her. That's kind of not on here, especially given that there's 2 trans people in this call right now, and even we know better than to go and sink to that level.
Yeah, that's just vile. We're not here to bully anyone. We're here to criticize.
Right. And I just want to say as a disclaimer, like, no matter what I have to say regarding general criticisms and the fact that I do not like this person's work, do not harass her. Please, for the love of God, don't. Like,
yeah, she's had enough harassment. We're here to criticize, not harass. There's a big difference in criticizing someone's work and making judgment calls about their personhood. Now, if you want to watch something where you criticize Lily's actions as a human being, there are other videos that are much better than we're going to do about that topic, about any number of accusations made about her. I'm not going to get into that because I feel like it's not my place as someone who isn't as thoroughly researched as I could be about that topic. We may mention some things here and there if it's relevant, but I can't see it being really relevant with this particular subject matter. So now that we've got that serious topic out of the way, let's have fun and talk about movies and animation and and
redemption arcs.
What? Oh, and redemption arcs. Yeah, because the video. Oh, I'm sorry. I cut you off there.
I was gonna say I was very happy we chose this video just because, happy and annoyed, like, because redemption arcs are an aspect of fiction that I really love. So.
Same, especially considering that one of the best redemption arcs of all time is getting skewered in a live-action adaptation this week.
Yep.
I'm not. Now listen, I wanted my video from last week to age like fine, like bad milk, but apparently it's not. Apparently the Avatar series just isn't that good. But I'm upset. I wanted to be wrong. I really wanted to be wrong. Anyway, so Jazzy, Chloe, any final words before we speak now, forever hold your peace?
Butts.
Are you trying to pull?
I feel like there's nothing else to really say except let's just get to it.
Okay. Now, at any point during this video, if you want me to pause, just start talking and I'll pause it. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Sounds good. All right, cool. And that goes for myself as well.
To tell.
Hang on, let me get to the start of this because I did test to make sure that we're on a Discord chat. I tested the audio to make sure that Jazzy and Chloe can actually hear what I'm streaming as opposed to just see visuals and hope for the best.
Yes.
For the sake of the hearing impaired, I am going to put on subtitles. They are auto-generated. That is a dangerous channel.
We're playing a dangerous game here.
That is true. All right. Actually, Chloe, we're going to move your person a little over little bit over because I realize you're over half the video.
Yeah, probably not a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. All right. I'm gonna move you over a little bit too. Okay. Cool. Let's get started.
The question regarding a redemption arc is this a good story to tell, and is this a good arc for the characters? And the answer.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to drop that one. Usually.
The answer that stories like this give is a resounding "who cares?"
Doesn't it feel like she started in the middle of a sentence there?
I don't even know.
Feels like.
It feels like I
Oh
missed
yeah, you go, Jesse.
Was she talking about the Owl House or Steven Universe? Like, I couldn't tell what the subject was in that sentence. Like,
I feel like she was trying to talk about both with that one, to be honest.
I feel like she's talking about more than just even that, because it's like she's just kind of diving right into her topic mid-sentence. Again, this is minutia. Obviously, though, from a strategic standpoint, it's good to get like in medias res, because it gets the audience's attention. But it does make me feel like I missed something. I feel like I went too far ahead from second zero. Tiny little thing, but I digress. It's a cozy couch, though.
So I've had a bit of a bone to pick with redemption.
Oh
arcs
God,
for a
we're in the
while.
realm of
Oh,
darkness.
Really, Lily? That's
Save
totally
me.
Oh,
Shut
no,
up. The
Kingdom Hearts.
2010s were absolutely obsessed with them, and they got old very quickly. In the wake of my critique of the sheer avalanche of characters that were getting hastily rushed redemption arcs throughout the decade, the same refrain we always hear came roaring back. Oh, but it works.
I'm sorry, how many characters got redemption arcs in the 2010s?
In the 2010s specifically, yeah. I mean, there was.
It's not that.
I mean,
if you think of the vast amount of fiction from like 2010 to 2020, you know?
yeah, like, and I'll be upfront. If you gotta be all like, oh, like just straw manning that sort of argument immediately with that one from there, and just being like, oh, with so many in like the 2010s alone, I'm just like, do you know how much media came out in that decade that had redemption arcs in them?
Yeah.
Right, and if we're going to pretend that the 2010s had a lot of redemption arcs, first of all, I'd argue the peak of redemption arcs is probably in our current decade, the 2020s, just with everything coming out. But second, yes, of course it's a popular trope, yeah, but it's a popular trope for a reason. Like, there is a general like to see someone who is making horrible mistakes and doing horrible things realize they're in the wrong and better themselves. I think it's a story a lot of people can relate to.
100%.
It's also a little thing called character growth.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And the thing also I'm thinking like with redemption arcs, the peak of that, in my opinion, would be like the 90s or 80s. Because like every bad guy got redemption arc in tons of children's media. You even had Skeletor getting a redemption arc during like the He-Man Christmas special. Like, to use an example that Lily would probably reference. You know, it's like,
right,
you get all these, especially in kids media, you got a lot of redemption arcs. Nowadays, there's a lot of bad guys who are more misunderstood, sure, but they get like skewered. I don't think Gravity Falls had too many redemption arcs for what's that triangle's name? Oh, I'm completely drawing a blank.
Bill Cipher.
Bill Cipher. I can't believe you drew a blank on Bill Cipher's name.
The only slight redemption arc in Gravity Falls was maybe, and I put a strong maybe on this because he was still kind of a shit by the end. Maybe Gideon. Maybe. And that is a huge maybe. That is a huge maybe. Like,
from awful to slightly less awful.
Right. He was still awful person.
Which I think she brings up Gideon in this video, to be honest.
Oh, I'm excited. So, I want to hear how she talks about one of my most hated characters in an otherwise great
I double check my notes. She does bring up Gideon in this video.
Oh yes.
And like again with like the 2000s, you had one of the worst books in terms of redemption arcs, which is Harry Potter. Which is half of it being, hey, your racist uncle isn't that bad, the novel series.
I'll say this. Something for the people in the chat real quick, just because I see it popping up. It might be a bit further up by the time it actually catches up on the stream. Mm-hmm. I see people bringing up Pacifica. Pacifica was more of a case of just standard character growth over time. She was never truly an antagonist in that show. She was just like someone with who basically had to realize her family privilege was kind of bullshit over time, whereas Gideon had actually actively antagonized the Pines family in that series.
Right. You could still argue Pacifica had something of redemption, but it's not a typical redemption. It's more just growing up, if we're being real. Like,
honestly, yeah, Pacifica, her arc kind of reminds me more of like a tsundere almost, like from an anime, where it's like, start off very like. Maybe I hesitate to use the word bitchy, but like kind of mean, a little bully character, but over time becomes more friendly and warm to the people who matter to her the most.
She's like Regina George if Regina George actually had proper character arcs over time and had the ability to do that.
Yeah, exactly. 100% agree with that. Yeah. So and that's the thing too. There's a difference between a character growing up, being less immature, and having a redemption arc. To have a redemption arc, you have to do something actually awful first.
Right, and Pacifica's worst crime was just being kind of a bitch. So
Yeah, but being mean isn't the first step to a redemption arc. You know, actually, no, I was gonna say. Okay, no, let's keep going. I can go on for a while otherwise.
Yeah.
It's done well. It's a pre-programmed response, I fucking swear. But it's true, redemption arcs work when they're done well. So why aren't they ever done well? In the 2010s, there was a renewed glut of redemption arcs in animation, largely fueled by a compulsive desire among many people to fix bad or otherwise vile people. Either this was ideological, where someone sincerely believed that nobody was bad and they were just broken and that if you can find what's wrong with them, you can fix them, or, more commonly, horny, where someone just wants to fuck the villain and has severe daddy issues, making them chase after bad boys and girls, and that's about it. As they became more
Wait
popular...
a second. Shots fired.
Stop.
Right there. That was a lot.
Stop right there. Okay, let's dissect this piece by piece.
Right, first dissection. Are you implying people weren't horny for Darth Vader?
Right,
Before we even start,
so
Darth Vader's
so
voice.
wait. If you simp for a if you simp, so is the logic that if you simp for a villain, you have daddy-ish? Look, one of my biggest simp targets is the fucking tall-ass vampire from Resident Evil 8. My relationship with my father is fine.
Yeah, no.
I will say this as someone who has absolute daddy issues. Yes, I am perfectly fine. I'm okay, but also, who wouldn't want to fuck Catra? She gives off such mean, dumb energy.
Before
But
we
also
continue
at the
this
same
conversation,
time...
How old is Catra?
She is,
Good question.
Yeah, before
I believe
we get anything in writing, let's ask that important question first and foremost.
Hold on, I'm pulling up the She-Ra wiki, don't worry. She-Ra...
I'm holding my tongue here, but point I was trying to make here is that why bring up that as an argument and bring up Catra in that as well? I feel like that's kind of that's the first indictment in this, and we're just barely a minute in.
Yeah.
That she's bringing up people being horny over a character as an excuse for them to have a redemption arc. Like, come the fuck on.
To say nothing of the fact that She-Ra's entire plot is about
Okay, so
and religious. Oh, okay. So Jazzy, what's the verdict? Is Chloe canceled on my stream?
it says ND Stevenson declared Catra to be between 17 and 18 at the beginning of the series, and by the end of the show, 20 to 21. So
okay, we're good. You good?
So,
you're good.
Okay,
I guess maybe as long as it's not season 1, you're fine.
Yeah, she had better hair in season 5 anyway.
Short hair Catra is superior.
There you go. But no, like in general, like Catra, for all of her, I think we can feel unashamed now discussing it as long as we're not talking about season 1. Her character arc I think is fascinating from the perspective of dealing with someone who's toxic, who feels betrayed, who descends into their own animosity and jealousy and suppressed gayness. There's a lot going on there. To kind of diminish it to just being the creators are horny for Catra is really weird. And then, of course, to say and to imply that people aren't also horny for the 50-foot-tall fascist mommies.
Right, it's like, but yeah, it's like, look. I'm going to tell you from the perspective of someone who's had fictional crushes on a lot of lady villains. Like I said, I mean, yes, you can simp for villains, but that doesn't have anything to do with a redemption arc. Like, that's not the motivator. Like, if you were watching She-Ra from season 1, like, at the start, it is abundantly clear that they are going that direction from Catra. The seeds are there. Like,
I think
like, it is
oh, sorry, I cut you off there.
like, it's pretty obvious, but at the same time, there are plenty of moments that make you doubt that it is going there. Like, I think it strikes a good balance between you wanting to see this character potentially get redeemed, but not sure if that's where they're going.
100% agree. And I think also with Catra that's really cool is that the whole way through you see exactly what she wants, both internally and externally in every single scene she's in. They do a great... I think She-Ra does a great job showing what every character wants and needs, both externally and internally, throughout the whole series. And they keep that very consistent, I think.
Absolutely.
And I think that She-Ra is a great example of a redemption arc done very well in children's media. Where
a lot of redemption arcs. Like She-Ra's... Most of the characters in She-Ra, like most of the villains, do go through some kind of arc, and while not all of them are completely redemptive, like you can make a case either like one way or the other for a character like Shadow Weaver, and then you just have like the big bad Horde Prime who can just go fucking die. But
yeah.
But like a lot of the villains do go through some kind of arc where they kind of figure themselves out, and I feel like a person's enjoyment of She-Ra. I always say that that a person's enjoyment of She-Ra and the arcs it's going to portray is entirely based on whether or not they believe a truly heinous person can find the good within themselves and realize what they're doing and stop before it's too late.
100% agree. I just did a quick look to add an image of Scorpia to my screen so I can look at someone who, honestly, would you say Scorpia has a redemption arc, or would you say she's kind of like just...
I think she was always kind of a good person, just on the wrong side. So
yeah, Scorpia was. I mean, they establish in the series that Scorpia's entire kingdom basically became the Fright Zone, and she basically was kind of just forced into the position that she was in. So I would label her an unwilling participant in this, and was just trying to make the best of a bad situation, but quickly realized that trying to do that is pretty much staying in an abusive situation, and just realized, fuck this shit, I can leave whenever I want.
100% agree
right.
with that. And again,
it's like that meme, you don't like where you are? Leave, hit the bricks, get out of there.
And again, it also feeds into the whole idea of She-Ra as a bigger allegory for, indoctrination in terms of toxic ideologies and thought in cultures. I think there's a lot of really cool elements there. And I think we all are in agreement, though, that She-Ra pretty firmly stands in the realm of good writing and not cheesy, bad character writing. I think we're all on the same page for that, right?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite shows for a reason. I've gone back to rewatch it plenty of times, and if apparently, according to some of the comments, I'm not surprised to hear this, but apparently Lily does go further into her issues with Catra and Catrador as a ship, and I'm prepared to rebuke every point she's about to make. Bring it on.
Prepare the arsenal. We're going to be diving in shortly. But I do want to say...
I feel like we should probably keep going on this, otherwise we're just gonna...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put aside Steven Universe and all... And again, admittedly,
I got thoughts on Steven Universe because I recently just had to pretty much just finished up a video on that, and I have thoughts when we get to that point.
Same.
Boy!
We'll get to the Steven Universe. That's its own cornucopia of discussion.
I began referring to them as snapshot redemptions, where the redemption arc doesn't actually happen. The villain mostly just says, okay, I'm a good guy now, and everyone else is like, okay, I believe you. To say this isn't fun is an understatement. I can't imagine the kind of person for whom this kind of redemption is fun, but they probably live in a cave and subsist on raw fish. In a redemption arc that works, I'm not going to say good because this is the bare minimum amount of quality, the point where a character decides to atone for their actions and the point where they can say to have been redeemed are two different points in the story. There's an entire second act in there that...
Why were they playing Mass Effect clips for that?
Because Morden. So I'm a big Mass Effect fan. I'm willing to go ahead and explain for a bit. Morden Solus is a character that has kind of a redemption arc. He started a whole illness for another alien species in the game called the genophage, and a lot of his arc is about realizing that was wrong and ultimately making the big sacrifice to cure it, basically.
Good. Thank you for explaining that to the person who played the first 10 hours of the first Mass Effect and never got any further. So I kept getting distracted talking to every single NPC, and I just didn't. I'm like, ooh, cool conversation. Talks to another NPC. Gets into like
someone just said Lily sounds like my evil twin, and all I can say is, God fucking damn it.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She may be your evil twin.
I wasn't gonna say anything jazzy, but
you knew the whole time and you never told me?
I knew you would react like this.
Oh, your evil twin. I thought you meant... Okay, I misinterpreted that one. Yeah, no, Jazzy, I don't know how to tell you this, Jazzy, but maybe the reason you're so diametrically opposed to Lily Orchard is because you are secretly like kind of like a counter-Earth version of her. Who knows? I don't know.
End me now. I lived a good life.
Well, let's keep
Okay,
some
we'll end you now by watching more of this video.
All right, this may destroy you.
That is crucial to that redemption process. Now, villain fuckers will call this notion puritanical and based on Catholic values, but in reality it's based on one very simple concept. It's satisfying to see character work toward goal. Every good character wants something. They have a motivation. A redemption arc is a fundamental shifting of that motivation. They want to change, and it's satisfying to see them work to get it. But a bad redemption, and indeed
Hang on a second. Why do they have the Tron segment from Kingdom Hearts over like a good redemption arc story? I mean, because in Tron, like, there's not really a redemption arc. There's
no redemption arc in there.
I mean, the closest you can say is Tron Legacy, with spoiler for a decade-old movie now, but like where Tron is brainwashed and breaks through his brainwashing programming.
But there's no Tron Legacy world in Kingdom Hearts, to my knowledge.
There is actually in Kingdom Hearts.
Dream Drop Distance.
Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah. Oh, but I don't remember much about Dream Drop Distance.
That's fair. It's not a very memorable game. So.
I wanna pull up one point though. Why on earth are you bringing this up why are you bringing up the idea that people will see your views as like puritanical or Catholic based with that one from there? Why the fuck are you trying to bring about an argument that probably doesn't even exist to begin with?
Yeah, I don't understand how Catholicism plays into this, because a lot of cultures have ideas of redemption, ideas of atonement. That's not purely
Also,
Catholic.
what's so puritanical about like a redemption arc in the way that you explained it, Lily? Like, genuinely asking here.
I was gonna say, like, if we're gonna talk redemption arcs in Kingdom Hearts, I guess the biggest would be, of course, Riku, and I'd say.
Axel.
Much as I love Kingdom Hearts, Riku doesn't have a very deep redemption arc.
I mean, spoiler alert, she's gonna talk about Riku later on.
Okay, I'll save my thoughts on Riku later. Although I will say,
oh boy,
this.
I can't wait to dive into that one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I'll just say,
distance deep dive into.
Let's fucking go.
Fun fact. I have notes on this, so like if y'all are gonna bring up stuff that's gonna get brought up later on, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, save it for when we actually get to that, just to save time.
Does she mention Catholicism ever again? Because I do think Catholicism is an interesting discussion with redemption arcs.
I don't think she brings up the Catholicism argument. I feel like she simply brings it up here simply to be all like, oh, this is an argument I feel like I'm going to get, and it's just like. No, Lily, this is not an argument you are ever going to get about your views on redemption arcs, because nobody views redemption arcs as puritanical like that.
Yeah, but even then with Catholicism is more focused on personal guilt and trying, with the perspective of that, you go into it knowing, into the world being guilty of something, and that no matter what you do, you are guilty of something that needs to be redeemed for it. That, I can see from that tangent, possibly, some connection to Catholicism. Not puritanical, Puritanism. Puritanism. I can speak English, because that's a whole other field. But addressing you have guilt for something isn't the same as admitting you did something wrong. They're totally different things. Guilt and doing something wrong are totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get on a tangent about Catholic philosophy and its influence on media for years, because I have a master's and I have to use it somewhere. But but we can proceed.
Every bad redemption story ignores this concept and instead has those two moments happen at the same damn time, skipping over that entire arc.
I met this lawyer. We went out to dinner. I had the lobster bisque.
You can,
we went back to my place.
Like,
yada yada yada.
The desire to. Could you pause for a second?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go too long into this. The desire to redeem oneself and the decision to do that can be in the same moment. Like, just briefly bring up Catra. Those kind of were the same moment. We did see, but I would argue that you did see a bit of a desire to be redeemed, like at the end of season 4 after Double Trouble laid the fucking truth bomb on her.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
And then you get to season 5 episode 3 where she, like, as she's kind of going through that, like, will she won't she moment where she finally makes the decision to do something good. So you can still do both, like, near each other. There's nothing wrong there's nothing wrong, inherently wrong about doing both, like, either at the same time or close to each other. There are circumstances where you can make that work, absolutely.
Especially if you take the time to show the impact of one's actions and what they have on other people. When with Catra's whole thing, she's not shown how her sins hurt God. It's shown how it hurts other people who she cares about or wants or values in some way. And you see, like, how her actions put a wedge between her and everyone else, and that kind of interpersonal destruction based on her feelings.
Right. So I think this idea that these two points to a redemption arc need to be so separate is ridiculous and is really close-minded to how someone can put those 2 points close together and make it really work.
It's also indicative, I think, of what Lily in general does, which is refuse to acknowledge that two things can simultaneously be happening on screen or on page at the same time.
Right, scenes can have multiple purposes. Like,
Exactly.
there's, like, that some would call that good writing.
Oh, yeah. Some might call balancing multiple ideas at once to be a matter of quality. Yeah, 100%. All right, back to this video because we're only 2 minutes in. And
Over the best part.
So instead of lazily going through examples like I normally do, I figured this time we'd be a little more comprehensive and go through as many examples as possible, or at least until I get bored. Starting with the earliest that kinda kicked off this particular version of the redemption arc trend.
Oh, here you go.
Riku is simultaneously patient zero and the gold standard for modern redemption arcs. When you think back over it, Riku's crimes are ultimately...
I'm sorry, what?
He's the gold
Okay, Riku isn't even the first fictional character from Japan to travel to another world, be convinced that his best friend is turned against him, join the evil Legion's army, and be the avatar of his destruction before the big bad takes over the plot. That's not even the first time that's happened in a Japanese piece of media in a decade before Kingdom Hearts came out.
And here's the thing, if you really want to if you want to point to a patient zero on the kind of redemption arcs we see every day, you could have made a stronger argument that Zuko was patient zero, honestly. Like,
I think Riku came out before. Did Kingdom Hearts come out before Avatar? Or
yeah, it did. But I'm just saying, like, Zuko was more the groundwork and more the clear inspiration. Like I haven't seen any modern day redemption arc that felt like it ever used Riku's as a basis. But that's because Riku's redemption arc is bad.
That's true. I will also say this too. Yeah. I have seen, though, another character who undergoes a redemption arc that I think is more compelling than Riku's, who has the exact same arc that I guarantee Lily is never going to mention because her frame of reference for media is between the years of 2000 and 2024. And that is Fushigi Yugi, with the character of Yui, who is basically Riku Patient Zero, if we want to use Lily's terminology, only better written than Riku. Because her arc is actually interesting and compelling. I can go into this topic for a while. Let's
try to keep it.
This is a long one I could do. I'm gonna hold myself back, but I will argue that without Yui, you wouldn't have stuff like My Next Life is a Villainess or any of those villain isekai shows because they all draw from that eventually.
Right.
I can go on that tangent, but for the sake of keeping this video under 7 hours in length, I will hold myself back. What do you have to say about Riku, Lily?
Very little. His biggest crime is being taken advantage of. Throughout Kingdom Hearts 1, he's manipulated...
No, it's not.
His biggest crime is assaulting women for their heart. What are you talking about?
He rips out multiple hearts. His actions
what are you... He tried killing a literal child.
Kidnapped Pinocchio.
Yeah, and his biggest crimes were also gaslighting, manipulating his best friend, also kidnapping his other best friend to use as like a power source to lead to everlasting darkness.
His worst crimes being No. What? No.
His actions almost result in the multiverse being destroyed.
Look. I've played Kingdom Hearts more times than any sane brain should because I'm Kingdom Hearts trash, but I like to think that even if you played the game once and never again, you'd at least come out understanding that Riku did some horrible shit.
Wait, Jazzy, are you implying Riku did something wrong?
A lot of things, actually, but you know.
But his worst thing was being manipulated by Maleficent, and then Xehanort, obviously. He didn't do anything else wrong aside from all the actions he did as,
Like,
before being possessed.
Most of the latter half of the game is only possible because Riku's awful, so...
Yeah.
I just want to say something for the people in the comments. Lily has played Kingdom Hearts. It's just that she doesn't have a fundamental understanding of the character arcs in Kingdom Hearts, so she just believes that Riku's only worst thing that happened was that he was manipulated into being evil, which is a thing that did happen, but it's not arguably the crux of his character arc throughout that, because I don't know, if you pay attention to literally anything in the first like 2 hours when you're on Destiny Islands, there's obvious signs there of why he would turn to darkness.
I would say being possessive over his best friends and trying to control their entire lives is way worse than some of the stuff he does later. I mean, granted, what he does later on, it's more grandiose evil, like not grandiose evil, grandiose like destructive, but like the sheer manipulation he has towards his friends, the sheer level of control he tries to have over Kairi's body, her unconscious, heartless body, essentially, is genuinely.
Well, when you put it like that, it sounds really creepy.
It does, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And that's something
Put
that
it
Lily
like that.
could have jumped into. That's something that she could have criticized, but instead she sees nothing wrong with Riku kidnapping and having ownership over one of his closest friends and trying to control her in a way that makes him happy because of his personal insecurities about where Sora's life is. Rather than ever talk to Sora and have a conversation with him that really means anything, he just assumes the worst in everyone and acts on instinct and impulse.
Right.
Again, there's a lot going on there that you could discuss, but she's really downplaying
So I
that.
feel like we need to kind of sort of bring this to the table. Riku is a child in that game. So, like, he's running off pure emotion. So, like, of course he would be, like, very possessive over his friends and everything like that. But also at the same time, it's just really kind of telling that, like, the only worst thing that Lily thinks that was done in this was just like, oh, he was manipulated. Child, of course he's going to get manipulated.
And let's sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'm realizing she has the exact opposite opinions of me on many things. Maybe we do need to go back to that evil twin theory.
Maybe she is an evil twin of sorts.
Let's see what her bad take is next on Riku.
Yeah, but the thing, I do want to add one thing before we keep going, and that's that Riku is very punished for his actions. Like, the entirety of the next several games is him dealing with the awful fallout of his actions. Like, he suffers horribly for his mistakes in the first game. So, if she downplays that, I'm going to be very concerned. Also, I just noticed that Lady Emily's in the chat.
Oh
shit! Oh no, I'm acting a fool in front of Senpai.
Hi, big fan.
People are watching me. Sorry.
Hi,
Anyway.
big fan.
Yeah, you're awesome. You're awesome. Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. Okay, cool. She agrees with us on the Riku point.
Thank you for agreeing with that on the child thing, Emily.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Back to subjecting ourselves to a very bad opinion.
And abused by Maleficent and made to believe that his best friend has abandoned both him and Kairi. And before he can really do anything about it, he gets possessed by Ansem and is forced to watch as Ansem uses his body to attack his friends. Ultimately, he gets dropped into the realm of darkness with King Mickey at the end of the first game. Then throughout Chain of Memories, Riku spends his time trying to contend with the fact that the darkness is extremely potent in him. And he's afraid of using it again because Ansem has become a part of him and he always risks becoming him once again. Chain of Memories also...
Okay, we all agree with that, right? That's a fair point.
Yeah.
100%.
That is a pretty fair point.
I have no objections.
No, when Lily makes a good point, I'm going to make sure to point it out. I don't want this to be bullying Lily, but that's a fair point.
Yeah. Let's just be clear about this. Lily does. I unfortunately have to say, Lily Orchard has a point here. Ansem was, in fact, pretty much possessing him in that period, but also at the same time, Riku was somewhat still conscious at that period, especially, like, during that whole fight that was shown just then, arguably.
Yeah, I think Riku's arc in Chain of Memories is really good. I think Chain of Memories has a lot of problems, obviously, but I think his arc into Kingdom Hearts 2, I think really does do a really solid job demonstrating Riku's growth from game to game. And
I would argue Chain of Memories actually shows Riku's redemption arc actually happening.
100% agree with that. And I think that, and I think also what's important is that he chooses to undergo this arc. You know, like it's a lot of his choice. By the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, he chooses to seal himself off in
Right.
the Druid of Darkness.
And
He chooses
that is
all of
true.
these. And that's actually, I think, really important. That makes these arcs really interesting. When someone goes, hey, I'm going to voluntarily do something right in response to my negative actions. And that's what I think makes Riku a really compelling character, personally. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Also,
anyway.
I just realized that like my mic settings with like this microphone I'm using on Discord were like really loud. So like if I was coming through and like blasting from my end to the audience, I am so sorry if I made any of you deaf.
Don't worry,
No,
I muted both of you. You guys are so loud, it actually went through the mute.
All right.
Wow, okay.
I'm sorry. That was mean to me. I'm
Shall
so
we
sorry.
continue?
It's Riku being put on a path of real redemption, as despite being a victim, he has unwittingly aided in Master Xehanort's schemes. Riku doesn't come into his own as a heroic character until Kingdom Hearts 2. In Days, he's practically a villain to the villain protagonist because he's ultimately looking to save Sora, and he doesn't really care about how Roxas and Xion have to die for that to happen. By the end, he has to become
debatable.
Ansem in order to incapacitate an angry and vengeful Roxas. This creates a problem for Riku, however, as now that Sora is awake, he can't go back to him looking like that, and so he avoids him for the entire game until Sora corners him in the world that never was, in what is perhaps the most saccharine moment ever put in a video game.
Oh, my favorite.
Close your eyes.
I'm not even sure there's the most sacred moment in Kingdom Hearts, let alone in gaming ever.
Okay, I'm gonna sound like an idiot here. What does saccharin mean?
Like overly sugary, sweet, sentimental.
Oh, not even close. Not even close.
This would be my top 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I genuinely love this moment, and I'm not going, oh, this is cheesy. No, I love this.
This is like a genuinely good moment that shows the bond that they have, even if one of them falls to darkness. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Riku!
And I'm not just saying next to ship.
It's Riku. Riku's here.
I'm all about
I
that
looked for
Holy
you.
Island Trilogy, baby.
Come on, Sora. You've got to pull it together.
I looked everywhere for you.
Throughout all of this, Sora never held any ill will towards Riku. Concern maybe, but never hostility. In the early games, there's this almost tragedy to them fighting. Sora knows that Riku's being played, but Riku either can't or won't see it. But by the end of the second game, once he has his own body back, long story, don't ask, him and Sora fight Xemnas together. It's a really triumphant moment for Riku, especially as he's mastered using the darkness without succumbing to it. But the best part of this is that we're still not done. In Dream Drop Distance, Riku is ostensibly
I want to take a pause here and go for a second. You know, so here's a question. Maybe I've seen a few comments about this too. Doesn't it seem like Lily's kind of avoiding the fact that it's very clear that Sora and Riku totally have a thing for each other beyond friendship?
Yeah.
Stop ignoring the obvious. Obvious.
Like I'm not trying to
Lily.
make a big deal about this, but like, I'm just saying, this is like a perfect throuple. Like those three, they're like
Yeah, they are.
they're
They have.
ultimately and that's
I've
not-
always
like,
been
I mean,
ride or die for this throuple. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
they all
Well,
love
I
each
mean,
other so deeply.
I'm ride or die for the fact that the two Fropples in this series kind of mirror each other in a way, because I'm also down for the Ice Cream Trio as being a Fropple as well.
100%.
Ice cream trio, baby.
100%. And I think like Aqua and Terra kind of have like bi-parent vibes personally, but I agree. I don't think anyone in Kingdom Hearts who's like an original character is straight. The Disney characters you make an argument for, but I don't think any of the original characters from Kingdom Hearts are totally heterosexual. That's just my hot
Wait,
take.
Ant. Are you suggesting that characters in a Square Enix game aren't entirely heterosexual? Sexual? Surely you jest.
Surely I jest. I'm very sorry for the controversial opinions. I know that is very shocking. I feel ashamed. I should banish myself from the internet for such a controversial statement. And
You've said much
I'll
more
leave-
controversial
sorry,
statements in your
actually,
other videos that should probably be sent off for those as well.
That's valid. I'm seeing comments saying the politically correct term is polycule. I do agree that it's probably better to describe the characters than a throuple necessarily. Oh, polycule means
fair.
more than
Yeah,
three. Oh,
but-
well.
Oh,
You can still describe it as a Fropple, to be honest. There's nothing stopping you from calling it a Fropple.
Well, here's a
let's
question.
put aside this whole video and debate the terminology
Well,
used,
here's a
because I
question, too.
find
How
this
does Roxas
conversation.
how's Roxas and Sora work if they're kind of the same, different facets of the same person, but involved in separate polycules.
How does Shion work then if like she's an amalgamation of like Kairi and Roxas in a
Guys,
way?
there is a
Is
simple,
Dominic just kind
there
of
is a
hanging out?
very, there is a very, 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 very simple explanation here that'll solve all your problems that you are all ignoring.
It's Kingdom Hearts. Don't think about it too hard.
Well, but the simple answer is everyone loves Sora. That is there you go.
Valid.
The
valid.
unified Keyblade polycule.
There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this video.
The main character, and his experiences have made him distrusting, cautious, and wary of traps. The opposite of Sora, who blunders into an organization trap. Riku's lessons from his experiences have made him much wiser and far more cunning, and it's because of this that he gets elevated to Keyblade Master. What makes Riku's redemption arc work is that the point where Riku turns on the bad guys is the first game, and that arc isn't complete until Dream Drop Distance. We spend a lot of time with Riku
debatable.
as he learns from his experiences, breaks the hold Xehanort has on him, and comes out a better person for it. It's a good story, and part of why it's so good is because it's long. It's a long story. It arguably takes up the majority of Riku's story. It's only in Kingdom Hearts 3 where that arc can be said to be completed. You get to see every step of Riku's journey,
debatable.
and even if you didn't get to see every step, it's still a journey. Okay, so I am loath to include this one because I've made my case in the past that Zuko is neither a villain nor is his arc a redemption. But honestly, if you think about it, neither is Riku, and I haven't really discussed this aspect of his character. Namely, Zuko, like Riku, has a journey. It's called the entire second season. Zuko's quasi-villainy, like Riku, ends after about one season, and the entirety of season 2 is about him as a refugee throughout the Earth Kingdom, seeing the effects of his father's war that had previously been hidden from him. The war's been going on for a century, and for the Fire Nation, it's always been something going on somewhere else. Everyone in the Fire Nation, especially children, are propagandized to, and Zuko's involvement in the war has been on a Fire Nation patrol out in the sea, but now Zuko gets to see firsthand the result of that war, the effects of a century of imperialism done by his family. Both it and his uncle's words have thoroughly humbled him, and while he does relapse, his experiences are going to stay with him and he can't really go home again after that. It's a poignant moment in the story where Zuko wants to return to his old normal, but he can't. And once again, part of why it works is because it has time. It has a lot of time to really work through everything and have an actual arc. It's more about recovery than redemption, as Zuko isn't ultimately at fault for the crimes of his father, but as the prince, it's his responsibility to fix them anyway.
Okay.
Oh boy, here we go. All right.
I think before we do Peridot, let's actually talk about the Zuko thing. I think. What do you guys think? Before I say my piece, I'll talk first.
So here's my problem with. I don't think the analysis on Zuko overall is that bad, but I do think arguing that he's not a villain at any point in the story and that his villainy stopped at the end of season 1 are both points that I have to heavily disagree with.
Agreed.
So no, Zuko's villainy did not end at season Zuko is a villain for a lot of the series. There are times he's not and kind of figuring himself out, and by the end he does redeem himself, but to act like he was never a villain and that if he was, that villainy ended in season 1 ignores a lot of the series, because for one thing, he's practically the main antagonist of season 1 minus Zhao.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that season 2 ended a certain way where
that's the
culmination of his whole mission. I'm sorry.
Right.
Let's be clear about this. It's not just a 2-season arc. It's arguably 2.5 seasons, because he is still very much a villain by the end of season 2. His redemption arc properly happens in season 3. There's little hints of it in season 2, sure, but he relapses hard by the end.
Right. The moments of him kind of figuring himself out in season 2 are both to help make his ultimate redemption in season 3 not only more impactful and understandable, but it also is meant to make that moment at the end of season 2 hit super hard, because you are cheering for him to get everything figured out. You are cheering for him to become a good guy. You are cheering for him to join Team Avatar. And so when it doesn't happen, it's a punch in the gut. And let's go back to that not a villain plot line. I mean, he's still leading his own squadron of fire soldiers to go and attack innocent villages. Yeah, he's a villain. He's a villain.
He's a villain. And the thing also I think is important is that throughout season 2, that Lily doesn't really mention all that much, is the idea that Uncle Iroh's whole thing is trying to talk to Zuko about what he wants out of his life. what is it that he wants? And Zuko keeps pursuing his destiny. He keeps pursuing his honor, quote unquote. He keeps pursuing the goal that's been ingrained and indoctrinated in him. And Iroh's whole thing is kind of going, what do you want out of life? Will that really bring you happiness? And we see in season 3, it doesn't bring him happiness. It brings him satisfaction that his goals completed, but it doesn't bring him true happiness in the way that he expected. He sees that he has fulfilled his destiny, but he's still living a life where he's been shackled to his pain. It doesn't actually bring him any satisfaction in life. It brings him a temporary high, but it doesn't get further than that, and he sees the consequences of his actions, again, much like with Riku weighing heavily on him. To say that Zuko's arc ends at season 1 or season 2, I think is very... I'm not saying Lily does say directly that the arc ends at season 1, but Zuko still is an antagonist until the moment he joins Team Avatar. And even then, there's still the internalized antagonism that he's directing towards himself, where he has to confront the real
and they still really do not trust him until just before Sozin's comet hits.
Exactly.
Right, and the thing is, if you want to argue that he's not actually a villain at any point, fine. I'm going to disagree with you because most of season 1 exists. Most of the conflicts in season 1, which let's be real, season 1 of Avatar is kind of the most Monster of the Week episode of the day type shit. It works for that season, but and let's be real, all of those Monster of the Week, Threat of the Day type situations are done by Zuko. Let's be real for a second.
Or at least spurred on by him in some way. His pursuit of the Avatar does lead all the Fire Nation to the Avatar, essentially.
The only reason Zhao's able to find out and do his thing is because he finds out from Zuko, so...
Mm-hmm. And again, even if you ignore the external antagonism that Zuko provides in season 1 and 2, and even into 3 a little bit, the internal pain that Zuko causes himself and the others is still relevant throughout the whole series. Even if you only accept an antagonist as someone who causes harm, Zuko's presence causes harm.
Absolutely.
Even when he's redeemed, quote unquote, he's still causing pain to those around him. I prefer the term anti-villain when I describe Zuko, because he is very tragic. He isn't evil. He's just a tragic character. But I think it's very misleading to say that Zuko isn't an antagonist in some way. That's my
right,
opinion.
or isn't a villain at any point. So this overall isn't a bad argument in favor of Zuko in terms of redemption arcs, but it is based on a very flimsy foundation with an extremely flawed understanding of the story and characters.
Agreed. And I would make the argument that Lily here isn't being offensive. I just disagree. And that's a huge difference between me disagreeing with Lily and saying that what she's saying is actively bad. Because I see my favorite green Dorito on screen right now, I suspect, though, that what she's about to say is going to really upset me. So
probably.
Same with the Dorito. I can't wait to see what kind of things she has to say about them.
I love
so this is gonna be interesting because I haven't watched Steven Universe in a long time. So anything I say is based on vague memory. So I think I'm gonna leave most of this to you guys, unless I have something provocative to say, I guess.
I may have feelings if they insult Peridot. I'm just saying that right now.
Yes, same.
What's this? Lily Orchard being positive about Steven Universe. Perhaps I should check to make sure the sky isn't falling and the sea isn't running red with blood. Well, you insufferable cunt. I've always been positive about Peridot. I've always felt that she and Season 1 Garnet were the best characters in the show. In fact, the point where the show went off the rails were the sidelining of Peridot, as well as that weird story arc where Pearl rapes Garnet and apologizes by saying she couldn't help it and Garnet was...
What? What are you talking about?
What?
What are you talking about?
Okay. First of all, using the term rape like that in a situation like that is really fucked, to be honest, because, number one, that is not what happened there, and number two, it was a violation of boundaries and a violation of trust, yes, but I would not call what happens between Garnet and Pearl rape.
Yeah, seriously, it's a step too far. Because, they refer... Just to make sure I'm following this correctly, they're referring to the part where Peridot and Garnet fuse, and not Peridot, Pearl and Garnet fuse, and Pearl keeps destroying the tower to create the scenario where they have to fuse over and over again, right, to solve it.
Yes.
That's what.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's one of the most defining arcs in Pearl's own arc with trying to essentially come to terms with her own usefulness, given the fact that she's still trying to overcome the fact that she needs to have some kind of ability to be useful in that regard, because she's relates that to her relationship with Pink Diamond. But
Right? Yeah. Okay.
like that is an integral part of Pearl's entire character arc throughout seasons 1 and 2, because she's still very much trying to sort of overcome that need to be useful to or subservient to someone.
Exactly.
So of course she would try and do that.
She needs
But
to be needed.
holy fuck, calling it rape is a step too far.
This is a common non-criticism I see a lot in regards to Steven Universe, where a lot of people interpret fusion as sex and not just a relationship. Like,
And even then, confusing intimacy with sex. That's the other thing too. 'Cause the fusion dance is meant to be an intimate moment of trust, but that's vague enough where you can insert any. It's allegorical. It's not meant to be a one-to-one. It's meant to be, oh, you can overlap this element with it. You know, romantic bonds, friendship bonds, father-son bonds.
And you want to know the best way that they established that? You want to know the best way that they established that very thing about intimacy and trust when it comes to fusions in that regard? In that very arc? I think it's the very next episode where, like, Garnet, Steven, and God, I'm blanking on the dad's name right now.
Oh, Greg.
Greg all go to like a motel, and Garnet unfuses into Ruby and Sapphire during that, and they have like an entire domestic over that.
Exactly.
That's literally the entire core of that episode, mind you, and it shows like how even someone as wet and that's known to be a fusion as Garnet can split over that loss of trust when it comes to even her own separate parts having a conflict at that point.
Yeah, and that's the big issue here, because it's clearly a relationship-wise. It's the feeling of someone who feels like they've been used and manipulated, but also trying to forgive them at the same time. Garnet's of two minds on the issue, as a lot of humans are when they're betrayed by a trusting relationship. This just feels to me like Lily is taking the most uncharitable interpretation of fusion, like the most extreme, and acting like that's the only possible explanation of how fusion functions. And that disturbs me, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I noted down that in my notes here. Like, my notes here literally just state, Lily Orchard calls what happens between Garnet and Pearl rape. What the fuck are you saying, Lily? What the actual fuck?
Yeah, especially considering that there's a lot of things. I think of the issue with Lapis and the abusive relationship between Lapis and I can't believe we're trying to blank on so many characters' names tonight.
Jasper.
Yeah, that initial fusion. That's not assault. That's a toxic relationship. That's two people actively hurting each other in a relationship. But
yeah, and they established that as well with the ending of season 1.
Exactly, and that's a sense. And if you conflate that with sex, then that must come across as way darker than what it actually is, which is simply two people who are causing each other misery, and are almost drawn to each other, but also their relationship is very toxic, but also they're unable to resist each other in some ways. Like, it's a very poisonous, very disturbed relationship that the show doesn't hesitate to demonstrate is very disturbing. But the problem there is rape is always one-sided. Sexual assault only comes from one party to the other. Toxic relationships, it can be two-sided. In this situation, I think Jasper and Lapis, it is a two-sided toxic relationship where both people are causing the other extreme harm and trauma. That doesn't carry over if you conflate it purely with sex, because toxicity there is usually one-sided and antagonistic, whereas this is more emotional antagonism.
Also, it should be pointed out that Steven Universe is a kid's show, so I would really hope they weren't going for a sex allegory here.
Also, I know Lily Orchard has really weird feelings about fusion, and I know that when Greg and Steven fuse, just saying, That's really weird if you only conflate it with sex. I don't know.
Let's move on.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, let's
So
just move on
stoic,
from
and
this.
she just wanted her to step on her. That was a weird few episodes, and I still want an explanation for that. Anyway, Peridot is another one of those not redemption stories where it's less about redeeming oneself for evil and more about deprogramming oneself from authoritarian bullshit and learning to appreciate the little things that make life worth living. It's a relatively long and satisfying arc as Peridot learns to be her own person, and one of the few stories where Steven is actually genuinely kind to someone. Once again, this is all about one key element. Time. Time that the other quote-unquote redemption stories in Steven Universe just don't get. As the show went on, Steven developed a lot of control issues, the good writers left, and all that was left were Sugar and her weeb forum.
Okay, so wait a second. Is she arguing... Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Is she arguing that someone deprogram themselves and no longer contributing to a toxic system of rules is not really redemption?
That is like I was just sitting there thinking, but that is like having authoritarian believing in authoritarian views is kind of fucking evil, and learning that they're bad is redemption. Like what aren't you understanding here? Like
I don't understand what she's trying to say because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Also, I love the fact that she put the diamonds specifically in there, but she actively avoided bringing up Spinel in that. And I would just like to say, what is wrong with you for just going off on the diamonds and not even bringing up Spinel from the movie? Because Spinel's entire character arc throughout that movie is just that, like, she literally just thinks that, like, all of that is just, she really is just, like, super obsessed with, like, the whole thing with, like, the diamonds and everything like that. And it gets so messed up.
Yeah, 100%. That's a much sadder... Spinel's story is really depressing.
It's one of the most depressing stories in Steven Universe, and it's told within, like, less than 2 hours, I think.
It's really depressing. It's sad and tragic, and she's obviously a victim of like Pink Diamond's bullshit, essentially. Like,
but also, I just wanted to point out real quick. I didn't expect that. Like, I didn't expect the next one to be one of my problematic faves, but here we go. So,
okay, so here's a question.
Oh boy, I'll leave this one to you, Jazzy.
All right, Jazzy, are you the only person here who's actually watched My Little Pony?
Who's actually what?
Watched My Little Pony?
No, I've watched it as well. I even made a video on it. I was well within the Bernie fandom during its peak.
Okay, so you see, here's a fandom blind spot for me. Not only do I know very little about My Little Pony, but I've only watched 3 episodes of it ever. So I'll let you handle this one.
I feel like I should provide some context. So I'm not really big into the Equestria Girl stuff. I watched the movies. They were all varying degrees of fine, except Rainbow Rocks. Rainbow Rocks absolutely slaps, and I really enjoyed that one. Anyway,
Rainbow Rocks is fucking amazing.
It means anything to me, so I'll trust you talking about.
And Sunset Shimmer, was one of my favorite inclusions across all the movies. So. Yeah, it's safe to say she's one of my favorite MLP characters as a result, so I'm very curious as to what Lily has to say about one of my faves.
I will let you field this one, Jazzy.
Well, if you have any opinions, I'll let you talk, because I have no idea what any of this means.
Woo! Jazzy episode, here we go!
Oh, well, it got too big. Let me minimize that. That's too big for... No one should see that much Lily on their screen at once. Here we go.
Okay, Lily, I'm noticing a theme here. Oh, are you now? Yeah, the theme for good redemption arcs is time. Now, admittedly, the Kingdom Hearts games have more cutscenes than an entire phase of the MCU, so let's have a look at something a little smaller. While Sunset Shimmer of Equestria Girls didn't have a redemption arc, she still had time after committing to change.
Yes, she did.
At the end of the first Equestria Girls, Sunset expresses remorse for her behavior in the first film, which was bad. The first one wasn't very good, okay? But the entirety of Rainbow Rocks is about dealing with all of that. It unpacks what was going on through this kid's head and how she has to address being on the other side of the fight this time around, as it's ultimately her against the Dazzlings. Still the best set of villains that the series had, honestly. And that's
debatable.
It's not very long, but it's as long as it needs to be, and at least it gets some attention.
Okay. I have no idea about any of that. Jazzy, what did you think?
Similar to my thoughts on what she had to say about Zuko, I think the idea that Sunset Shimmer wasn't a villain is kind of ridiculous. I mean, she's a villain in the sense that, like, I mean, she was a threat to the character. She was the first film's antagonist. Yeah, I would argue she's the villain. Like, but other than that, yeah, I do agree that in regards to the first one, regards to the first film, there were some issues. And one thing that really made Rainbow Rocks really good is the fact that, yes, she kind of has to deal with the aftermath of everything, and just, like, there's a lot to unpack there. So, surprisingly, I agreed with way more of that than I thought I was going to. So,
okay,
damn,
you know,
damn,
honestly,
I was ready to tear it. I was ready to tear into this, but I gotta wait until Catra. So,
you know what? So far, we're at the halfway point of this video, roughly. I'm gonna say it right now. She's made a couple decent points so far. I will give Lily that. She has not. I am not saying. When she's saying nice things about these characters, she's not as toxic as her reputation would imply.
I will also say this, though. The ratio of her having actually agreeable points to not agreeable points is still 1 to 3 at this point.
That's fair.
Yeah,
and like I said, similar to Zuko, it's a decent argument built on very shaky foundation.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know who the hell Gideon Grey is.
Isn't he from Zootopia?
It's from Zootopia.
Isn't he like the bully from Zootopia?
Oh yeah, God, I don't remember a lot of Zootopia. That's the biggest revelation I'm getting from this video.
Who become honestly like?
I feel like that's more an indictment on Zootopia, to be honest.
I think
Zootopia
is fine. It's
Zootopia is fine, but like Gideon Grey, what? That wasn't a he was not in much of the movie.
Was he like a childhood bully who just shows up in like a scene and has grown up and matured? Isn't he?
Yeah. He grew up and was like, hey, I was a bully once. I was a bully once, but I got over it. If you wanted a bully character who has a whole ass redemption arc, I'd say something like A Silent Voice, my favorite goddamn movie ever made, would have been a better pick for this.
But let's be fair. I don't think Lily has much experience with like really adult storytelling. Why not even just Hey Arnold, Helga?
Yeah, fair.
That's a pretty mainstream character. A Silent Voice, I feel like, is going into like the kind of stuff that Lily doesn't touch with a 9-foot pole, which is really complex storytelling.
That's fair.
I don't mean to be mean about it, but like a lot of these are very simple stories, and that's fair. If that's what you like, that's fine. I'm not trying to say it's bad, but I'm saying like all these are very straightforward. I mean, Kingdom Hearts, yes, it is very complicated, but is Kingdom Hearts complex?
All right. So,
is it complex or is it complicated?
No, it's. Let's just say the Riku stuff is probably the least complicated stuff in Kingdom Hearts, but
yeah,
or even I don't even think Kingdom Hearts is that complicated. Hot take, but maybe that's just because I played these games so many times that I know everything.
Jazzy, that might be a personal problem if you don't think Kingdom Hearts is complicated. That might be indicative of something else. But I mean, there's a difference between something being complicated and something being complex. Complicated means a lot of elements going on. Complex means there's a lot of themes happening simultaneously. Like
complex, then I would say Kingdom Hearts falls more under complex. Then
you think so? Okay, I would say more complicated personally, but that's a discussion that would require charts and graphs, and I don't feel like getting into that right now.
Oh my God, my partner's in the chat. Hi, Jordan.
Oh, cool. Hey, Jazzy's partner. All right, cool. You got your moment. You got your 15 seconds of fame. Let's talk about this chubby fox who enjoys pies.
Wait, Gideon Grey, Lily. That guy had like 2 scenes. I know, but we're getting even shorter to make a point. See, I talk about time, but an even more important element is care. You can establish an off-screen redemption arc, but you need to know how to do it. And I think Gideon is really the most efficient at it. When we first see Gideon, he's this school bully who has a serious racism issue, mostly directed at himself, ironically. This guy, his parents who just really fucking hate themselves. When we see him again at the end of the second act, he's gone through a change.
I'll be darned.
Hey, Judy, I'd just like to say I'm sorry for the way I behaved in my youth. I had a lot of self-doubt, and it manifested itself in the form of unchecked rage and aggression. I was a major jerk.
Now, you don't get to see how he got to this point, but if you listen to the way he talks, you can infer it.
I had a lot of self-doubt. And it
I could argue that
manifested
for a
itself
few
in the
redemption
form of
arcs that you're
unchecked
probably going to
rage
shit
and
on, but okay.
aggression.
Stuff like self-doubt and manifesting in the form of unchecked rage and aggression isn't the kind of vocabulary that a country boy would normally use. And indeed, he doesn't.
Oh, come on, Lily.
That's a stereotype.
That's really messed up. That's
Come
really big. That's really prejudiced against country boys who enjoy making pies.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
And if
Come
any country
on.
boys enjoy
I'm not-
making pies, you can call me that.
I think just through one sentence, Lily made me a passionate defender of this character.
This guy deserves better. Don't insult his intelligence like that.
I have now become a very passionate defender and fan of Gideon Grey now.
Of this movie that we maybe saw once, like 5 years ago.
It's amazing.
I barely remember Zootopia. I remember this character very distinctly, for reasons. I don't know. He left a good impression for that. I mean, here's the thing. For as little as they present in the story, he left an impression. I'll give them that. Mm-hmm. Even if the only thing I took away from this was that those pies look really nice. I am biased.
Any of his
I'm easy to satisfy, okay?
other speech in the same scene.
Hey, kids, don't you run through that Mindy Camp from Holy Sethias.
Well, now, there's a $4 word, Mr. H. My family always just call them night howlers.
Gideon's been to therapy. Something happened to him in his life that caused him to realize he had a problem and needed to change. Probably got himself in a lot of trouble and was either forced or strongly encouraged to go to therapy and get help, or maybe he just realized one day that he wasn't happy and needed help and then got it. It's a small scene, but it says a lot about a character whose main crimes are mostly just being a bigoted moron, and it largely leaves it to the audience to clue into those things. If you know anything about therapy and about how rednecks talk, you'll get it. And there we go. That's a character who exists in 2 scenes, and it says so much about his life in just those 2 scenes. It's very good. Okay, Lily, those are all.
Like, why have to insult a character who undergoes a redemption arc? Like, I don't get it.
Right, I was gonna say, look, if that's what you got out of these 2 scenes, good for you. I'm happy you got a whole section in a video worth. I think you're inferring way too much from what the film actually gives you.
Yeah, I just think it was like, oh, he was a jerk when he was younger and reevaluated himself and grew up. Maybe therapy was involved, maybe it wasn't. It's to assume it definitely had to do with therapy. That's like that's a jump. That's a bit of a jump.
Right. The whole point. Okay, so I'm starting to. This is interesting because through this, I'm slowly starting to remember more of Zootopia. But the point of that.
Go for it.
The point of that whole scene is just so Judy can figure out that night howler berries are involved. Like, it's just there as it's a way for her to figure out a missing key to this mystery, basically. That's all it's there for. It's a nice moment to establish that the bully is still a character, but it's not a deep point. It's just there so that a character can get from point A to point B.
Agreed. And I've seen a mention in the chat, Kyla. Does this count as a redemption or just a bully growing up? Kind of more like in the lines of Pacifica.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's a redemption. It's just growing up.
Yeah, it's just a person realizing they were a jerk when they were a kid and realizing they're not a jerk now. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is definitely adjusting and growing away from, like, your cultural influences. Again, a lot of this, but it's really strange how, I mean, maybe it's rubbing me the wrong way because I'm just, whatever, but how negative she is about, like, people born in certain parts of the world. Mm-hmm. She's made a lot of judgments about people who might be, I mean, I'm not saying anything to the contrary, anything, strong about this, but, like, it comes across as a little condescending, doesn't it? Like, they say that people born in certain areas of the country are less intelligent than those born in other areas.
Yeah, I didn't like, that's the biggest thing I didn't really like from this is just the stereotyping, but also, look, Lily, I doubt you'll ever watch this, but if you do, please listen to me. If you really like redemption arcs about bullies who learn not to be bullies, there are movies about that. My favorite movie is about that. You should watch A Silent Voice. I'm being nice. I know I've been being a critical ass throughout this entire video, but I'm going to go ahead and be nice and say, I think you'd really like it.
I think Lily would benefit from watching a lot of really nuanced adult storytelling projects. Mm-hmm. A Silent Voice is incredible. Maybe start them off with something smaller, like even like, I mean, a silent voice is a great example of that. I'd say another example would be Good Will Hunting to an extent.
Oh, Good Will Hunt. Yeah, that's a great one. That's another one of my favorites.
And it does deal with a person who grows up and has to mature out of their prior state of mind.
I'm starting to realize a pattern with a lot of my favorite movies.
It's about people growing up and becoming better people, better versions of themselves.
Yeah, probably just because it's very representative of my personal philosophy that you can it's never too late to better yourself. And I know in the age of social media where we're all trying to make enemies of each other, that's a pretty wild take. But no, I'm always of the philosophy that people can better themselves. It's never too 100%. Late, and I love stories that delve into that. Like 100%. Again, a silent voice. I love that. Beauty and the Beast to a lesser extent kind of does. Like the Beast finds his humanity. That's the whole story. It's not a redemption arc per se, but it is kind of a story about finding yourself, basically.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Yeah, like not everyone is a shitty person forever.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I tend to love stories that really reflect that idea. Like so I guess it's also why I find myself really loving redemption arcs so much, because it's the thing that really emphasizes that philosophy to me. And
agreed.
I'm not going to go too personal, but there was a time, and people who know me, who've only met me like in the last few years will be shocked to hear this, I was a shitty person once upon a time. And like, it was awful, and and after some friends talked to me and made me realize I was doing bad things and I needed to stop, I got my shit together. So it was long, hard, and there are friends that I lost in the time where I was a shitty person that I'll probably never get back, but I'm at least bettering myself in the present day and for the future. And I think most people who knew me at both points in my life will gladly tell you I'm not the same person. So
no, 100%, and I respect that. I think that's a really incredible thing to admit about yourself, and we all deeply care about you, so I get that. It's a great thing to say. And I will say this also as well. My favorite media stories are all the people who are terrible people who make worse versions of themselves. I like the opposite direction.
Also, like, unfortunately, I have to kind of be the person to say that. We've been at this for nearly an hour and a half, and we're only halfway through this video.
Yeah, I was going to say, we might want to try and shotgun the rest of this.
Okay, let's keep this up.
Let's go one segment at a time and then bitch for a bit.
Like Jordan, your partner is telling you you're amazing. I'm sorry, Jordan. Jazzy, your partner Jordan is telling you that you're amazing.
Oh, thank you, honey. I appreciate that. Love you.
All right, time for pain.
You say are bad different. Oh, I'm glad you asked, incredibly sexy stranger who just happens to be voiced by me. In contrast to Gideon Grey, Andy DeMeo spends an entire episode of Steven Universe being your racist uncle at Thanksgiving, but most of his character development has to be dragged kicking and screaming by Steven's evangelical blood is thicker than water beliefs. Side note, don't tell me what the phrase originally was, that anecdote is not true and you're annoying regardless. To the point where they chase him down in a plane and then all of his anger and bigotry vanishes into thin air. He just jumps to being your weird hippie uncle like nothing happened. Now, there's actually a lot to unpack about that one family member at Thanksgiving nobody talks about and barely tolerates, particularly in how nobody outside of Greg really takes him to task about any of his bullshit. Your racist uncle at Thanksgiving is a problem, but a bigger problem is everyone else at the table who doesn't tell him to shut his ass up. But none of it gets talked about because Steven Universe is not a show that tells racists to shut the hell up. Instead, it's, but family! Okay, I'm no longer a Trump sucker. I imagine time was not good to this episode because it came out after Trump was elected, which was just the catalyst for a lot of people to kind of stop tolerating a lot of their conservative friends and family members. It's not really a redemption or even recovery for him. It's an episode about reaching across the aisle to your racist Uncle Andy. And the reason why it ultimately doesn't work is because it's a story written by your racist Aunt Becky.
Did you just call Rebecca Sugar a racist?
I think you just call Rebecca Sugar a racist. Ignoring what's probably going to be the first of it's not even the first slight at Rebecca Sugar in this video, but okay. On one hand, Uncle Andy kind of sucks. I think the show established.
I'm just gonna say I didn't get that far in Steven Universe, so this is blind ass territory for me. So please,
my uncle comes to Thanksgiving, basically. That's
Yeah,
the this episode.
yeah.
Okay.
I kind of do think that Lily has a point with that whole
Yeah,
thing
she
with
may be
Uncle
cooking with
Andy.
this.
But that last comment is the one I'm just like, holy shit, girl! Can you stop with the Rebecca Sugar hate already? Jesus fucking Christ!
Yeah,
I was gonna say, even as someone who wasn't aware of this character, who he was, you kind of had me a little convinced for the most of it, and then you called Rebecca, and then you went completely out of pocket and called Rebecca Sugar a racist, and I'm like, okay, I genuinely don't give a shit about everything you just said before then.
yeah, no,
Sorry.
that's a no. I mean, the uncle, his whole thing is he comes up. Greg's like, "Oh God, why are you here?" Steven's like, "Oh, I have an uncle. I know an uncle. It's cool." And he kind of tries to bond with his uncle, who has no interest in any tolerance with a kid who associates with so many illegal aliens, in under one roof. To say nothing of how Peridot and Lapis are kind of pseudo living together. Like that's already like there's a lot of overt. It's not a subtle episode, and I don't think the uncle's supposed to be like a likable character. It's more like, can you put
not
aside
meant
your
to be likable.
bigotries to deal with your family, essentially?
Yeah, it's really not meant to be. He is not meant to be one of those characters who is meant to be like, oh, you're meant to like him by the end. No, I still hate him because I know people like that in real life and they can fuck right off.
Yeah, I get the vibe. It's more tolerate them for the family dinner, but you don't have to reach out to them ever again. Like I feel that's the message of the movie, of the episode, where it's like, deal with them like they are family, but like you don't have to like agree to anything with these people.
I do want to just bring up one comment in the chat real quick. I don't know if all three hosts are white and feel odd saying, they aren't racist. Point to me like definitive proof that Rebecca Sugar is racist. Like, don't make it like just like what Lily just did by putting up like a small little piece of like concept art or just showing off Sugalite. Like, show me like legitimate words
Like-
from Rebecca Sugar that are definitive claims that she is racist.
Right. If you want to claim she's racist, fine. Show me a racist thing she said, please, and I will probably agree with you that it's racist. Like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna put my foot in that pond. If you have evidence that she's racist, provide it. But I also think that you have to like articulate specifically, hey, here's this thing that she did specifically that's racist, as opposed to throwing it out there as just a punctuation to a point. Like, if you want to talk about racism, we should address racism. Like specific racism, like an example with a thing, and you say, here's what she said and here's what she did. I'm not defending Rebecca Sugar if she did something, if they did something that was awful. Mind you, if they did something awful, I'm not going to defend that. But I'm saying, like, at least discuss it. Don't have it as like a punctuation mark and then never elaborate on it.
Yeah, like don't throw like a vague comment into the chat saying, "Oh, why are these white people saying that Rebecca Sugar isn't racist?"
And it's one
instead
really
of
good
being
point.
all like, "Hey, here's a definitive reason why Rebecca Sugar is racist. Why are you saying that they are not racist?"
And a good point also in the
I'm
chat
not.
is before you say that, I'll say one thing real fast. And one good point is a lot of white people do have internalized racism without realizing it.
Exactly.
That affects them by their biases. They have to spend years unlearning that, you know. And if you say I didn't have to, you're lying to yourself. You haven't realized how deep the programming goes because of society and movies and conversation. And casual discussion.
Retraction. That same person that said, sorry, I had entered her early. I was saying, hey, all three hosts seem white. If you feel weird saying they're not racist, as a POC, SU seems very anti-racist. Okay, that makes a lot more sense when you put it like that.
Say again? Say again? Yeah, and again, like, it's one thing, I'm not saying that Rebecca Sugar is not racist. I'm saying that in the discussion, it shouldn't be a punctuation to a bigger point.
It seems like
inflate a real person's possible bigotries and racism in a punctuation mark about the episode that they did. That's my only point. I am not going to say either way that I'm not going to defend Rebecca Sugar based on that because I have no idea. I don't know her. I don't know them. But,
I don't know Rebecca Sugar.
I never talked to them.
Like,
I asked them to hang out with them coffee one time, but they never answered me back. But again, it's like,
okay, I feel like we got a little bit off track with that one.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Let's see what Lily has to say about the fucking diamonds.
No,
I'm excited.
And again, one key thing I'll say also is that what really defines someone who's like super racist versus someone who's been programmed racist but is trying to unlearn, how they respond to someone who's a person of color pointing out racism. That's a key also, I think. I want to believe that Rebecca Sugar is good at responding to that, but again, I don't know them personally, so I can't say for sure. Anyway.
That's a smaller scale. Your racist uncle is evil, but he also probably never leaves his house, so at least he's probably not assaulting people who matter. It's on the larger scale where this becomes a problem. Simply put, there's no coming back from genocide. Once you flip that switch, it's pretty difficult to justify redeeming a villain guilty of genocide that isn't just surrendering and submitting to justice. Admittedly, there is exactly one way to do this, and that way is this narrative decision was fueled by writer bigotry and therefore should be summarily ignored. I don't need to be coy here, you know exactly who and what I'm talking about. But in most other cases, it's really an instance of trying to have your cake and eat it too. You want the villains to be a threat because drama, but you also don't want to kill them because you have the moral framework of a 5-year-old. At that point, there's really no option other than to say, there's hell, you better jump. This was ultimately the case with the Diamonds. They've done so much and hurt so many people, and yet the show ultimately piled on excuses to justify not destroying them, and their redemption was little more than, hey, stop being evil, Mr. Hitler. Admittedly, early on, they were largely shrouded in mystery, the only real sight of them being the murals on the walls of the secret Nazi moon base. But the more you learn about them, you learn they don't like gems fusing, don't like gems getting sentimental, attempted genocide against every gem on Earth, and they engage in mass slaughter of any gem which comes out wrong or doesn't fit the rigid idea of what a gem should be, which is not fascism in the same way prison labor is not slavery. But in the end, the fascist
I would just say it's fascism. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, the Diamonds are pretty awful.
Yeah.
But, like, they don't really get redeemed either. They just...
Yeah, like...
Again, I'll save my real thoughts for when Lily finishes her thought.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'll leave my thoughts when we get to the proper discussion of this bit. But the Diamonds don't really have a redemption arc because, number one, why should they get a redemption arc in terms of genocide in that one? And number two, the way that the switch flips is a lot different than what is explained here.
Oh, so wait, are you saying Lily's going to misrepresent the ending of Steven Universe?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Goody.
team is defeated with a comeback.
You're just acting like a child! I am a child. What's your excuse?
Ah, if only the Allies had known the devastating secret weapon of No You. It would have shortened the war by 5 years and saved millions of lives.
If I lay this card down, I can flip any situation around. It goes bam.
The Diamonds never really see any kind of arc. They show up barely for the sake of hype and ultimately only get 5 minutes to come around. The next time we see them, they aren't so much on a redemption path as they are aggressively simping for Becky's self-insert.
Just let us adore you.
I swear the early design documents for this were for a visual novel dating sim set in Spandau prison. The ideas start with big, tall,
but you're not saying that
and end
Rebecca
with Steven
Sugar is a
patronizingly
Nazi
talking down to
sympathizer.
grown
You're
women
totally
like they're
not
children,
saying it.
and the story ultimately
Totally
yada-yadas
not.
over the space between point A and B. This is the fundamental problem. It doesn't want to kill the villains, but it also can't be bothered to spend the time or even the energy necessary to redeem them, and that's even before you get into how shaky ground it is to redeem genocidal dictators in the first place. When I think about redemption arcs, I'm drawn to think about the people who say that the Owl House doesn't get good.
Okay, so let's take a pause there.
Yeah, this is going to get a bit long with this bit because I feel like it's going beyond just the Diamonds at this point.
So, okay, Chloe, maybe I'm misremembering Steven Universe. Maybe I've forgotten the key detail about it. The Diamonds don't really have a redemption arc at all.
No, they don't have a redemption arc. Like, in the movie where that clip comes from, and I know that because the movie is also a musical throughout the entire thing, and there's like fucking musical segments for every like 10 minutes in that movie. I will say this, the Diamonds are still presented as not exactly like they're not necessarily presented yet as what they are in future, where they're just like secondary characters, but they're also not exactly presented as redeemed. Like, everybody still remembers, hey, you did a lot of fucked up things with that one there, and Spinel is also there as well, kind of making things a little bit interesting as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand with Spinel's whole thing with that one as well.
100%.
But I think you also got to forget the fact that during the movie, almost damn near everyone gets reset. As in, like, their personalities get reset back to default settings in a way. It's why one of the biggest musical segments I remember from that movie is the one where, like, everyone is acting very, like, off kilter and very uncanny valley in a sense.
Yeah, something is very wrong in that scene for sure.
Yeah, and the diamonds still very much see Pink Diamond in Steven, unfortunately.
I would also make the argument that here's the thing. Just because a character wants to be seen as kinder to someone else doesn't mean they're redeemed.
Yes.
Like, that's the key thing. The Diamonds want Steven to admire them. And they're doing things right because I think Blue and Yellow Diamond are more on the course of redemption in a sense, but they're also less directly involved with the actions of White Diamond than White Diamond is.
Yeah, Blue and Yellow throughout the entire season 5 slowly begin to realize, oh no, we are the bad guys here.
Yeah, their redemption's a little more developed, but I hesitate to call it even redemption there because Steven is still profoundly uncomfortable around them. And that's the thing too that I think that Lily is going to ignore, and that is that Steven doesn't forgive them.
Yeah,
like,
no.
He does not like them until the end of the series. And it is not subtext, it is text. It is overtly shown that if given the choice, he would have White Diamond bash her skull in. And
it's a defining episode in future where Steven literally takes over White Diamond's mind and physically harms her while he's in charge of his head. So he is still not ever going to forgive White Diamond to a degree. Let's be blunt about that.
I should also mention purely as someone who didn't get this far in SU back when I watched it, just based on what y'all are saying, this seems like a reasonable way for big villains to be defeated in a show that is meant for children, and probably couldn't just kill them off. Like,
I will also say this. I will also say this when it comes to, like, people who, once you flip that switch on genocide, there's no going back. Okay, apply that to Zuko.
Yeah. He's actively participated. He's like, I don't think he was in any of the fucking Air Nomad genocides because he wasn't born yet, but like he was still actively participating in a lot of this shit.
He was still actively participating in the Fire Nation genocide for literal years in his quest to get the Avatar.
It's also important to note that the Diamonds don't see human beings as people. They're so alien, they're so far beyond human comprehension that they don't even acknowledge life as meaningful whatsoever. To commit genocide, you have to actually acknowledge that the people you're attacking are people of your equivalency. This is more like Cthulhu-level Lovecraftian horror, where the means of which they're enacting, it's like they want to unleash the cluster inside of a planet, it'll blow up the planet up. To them, the rocks are no different than the life on the planet. They just want it gone. They don't see it. It's like it's like an exterminator wiping out an infestation in a house. They don't see the people as anything more than bugs. It's hard to connect this kind of cosmic level thought to human terms. It's so, and in the fact, there's so many elements here of reduction of the complexities of the specific situation. It's like holding Cthulhu accountable for a genocide. Yes, it is deliberate. Yes, it is focused. Yes, there was a system of control, but it's so alien and so distant from human emotion and human society that you're trying to equate the cosmic with the humane. And yes, Steven Universe does that a lot with its characters, but with its gems, the ones who are stuck in that system of control, not the ones manipulating it. It's very hard to level set such a high level thought process of cosmic indifference to human subjectivity. And I think that's oversimplifying the diamonds in that sense.
Right. I also want to point out that Lily says, like, once you are participate in or complicit in genocide, there's no flipping that switch. But one of the examples she showed at the beginning of the video was Mordin Sullis from Mass Effect 2 and 3, whose entire character arc is that he was responsible for a genocide and wanted to redeem himself.
Yeah. And to say nothing of Riku, who is responsible not just for genocide of people, but entire eradications of universes. Like, he participated in not just the active eradication of realities, but the active eradication of all realities. And that's something he partook in, of sound mind.
Yeah.
And
but anywho,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but like it's very odd. The problem I have with Lily's arguments isn't so much that, if you look at it, if you took Lily at face value and said, oh, hey, these are fascists who are like Nazis trying to redeem themselves. Yeah, obviously, what she's saying is sound. You can't redeem a Nazi. But they're not. They're not Nazis. They're cosmic, godlike entities who do not have human perspectives like an average person would. It's very peculiar. And I know I see a comment saying that dehumanization is a major part of conceptualization of genocide, but when you're dealing with an alien who is in control of planets, their perspective is very different, and you have to kind of look at it from that perspective. They are hard to rationalize. It doesn't make sense. It does seem indifferent. It is horrifying and genuinely disturbing because that's what they are. And I know that Steven Universe tries to ground it in like human terms, but at the end of the day, White Diamond's a really creepy, strange character. Like, they are a weird freaking character. Even by the Diamond standards, she's really strange and disconcerting and unsettling and disturbing. It's just not a good allegory for genocide. It's more, I would even say it's more of colonization or of domination or of control. And I'm actually seeing comments now that are saying the exact same thing I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah. But anywho, do we want to continue on so we can try to...
It's a tangent I can go on for a while. Steven Universe is a strange show. Its metaphors don't add up quite right. But, I think Rebecca Sugar's biggest failing is that they didn't think of the full implications of some of their metaphors, but also that they were rushed for time and didn't have time to flesh them out entirely. But,
and also the timing for certain episodes 100%. And aspects was unfortunately a bit unfortunately terrible, and they had no way of predicting it. So,
and Rebecca Sugar,
yep, much like another one that she is about to get into.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, goody.
Until season 2. Mostly because season 2 adds all the adventure fantasy garbage modern fans is obsessed with. But part of the
shut up, Lily. Season 1 was actually really good. You just didn't get it.
Of Owl House? Yeah,
you can go.
Every season of Owl House is great.
All three seasons of Owl House were great. Shut up.
And I feel
saying that it didn't get good until season 2. Fuck off. That's it. That's all I wanted to say real quick.
The reason it works is because season 1 did all the actually good character work. It seems like a lot of people want to yada yada the character work and just get to the part where their favorite hunky murderer gets to be on the good guy team. Which would make sense because if there's one thing I can call most of the writers of these stories, it's single-minded, lazy, and way too horny for their own good. Lily, that's 3 things. I like to go above and beyond. This is the reason
what is with your obsession with horniness? Why is that an
rising tension argument first? The villains have to get progressively worse and worse to keep you watching. And then when it's time for the redemption that was decided early in production, nowhere near the amount of time is spent on that redemption as was spent on the villainy. That is not a workable story. See, I've never hated redemptions. I've just gotten very tired of bad redemption stories. Characters having to rethink...
I'll take a pause right there. What?
Yeah, what?
That was like an overloaded word sandwich, and it never meant anything. Like, I'm sorry.
I don't know anything she just said.
That was big old word salad right there.
She said a lot of words, but none of it connected in my brain. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure it out, but I don't
right. And I still don't understand where horniness is coming through. Like, no. Look, as a voice actor in a show with a general audience, I'm probably the last person in this particular group of 3 that should be asking this, but Lily, where does the horniness actually come in? Exactly. Tell me!
Also, I should acknowledge this too. I'm seeing some counter arguments to my Lovecraftian diamond thing. I do agree. You are correct. You do mention that the diamonds have a shift in perspective, and it's a very human quality. That's a very good counter argument to what I'm saying. I agree with that. Good on you, chat, for countering my argument. You have a very good, convincing counter argument there. I agree with what you're saying. Sorry, I just want to acknowledge chat there because there was some good conversation going on in chat, and I felt like I want to acknowledge that because that's a good counter argument to what I'm saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Okay. Someone also corrected us saying that Lily actually really liked season 1 of The Owl House, but hated 2 and 3 because it has tropes she didn't like, and she really didn't like Hunter apparently, which. Okay, you're allowed to be wrong.
I disagree. I think all seasons of Owl House are solid, but they just do different things. They try to
and Hunter's amazing. Fuck you.
Also, if I was someone that misheard that, I apologize for that one. That was probably on me.
That's fair. We've been listening to this video for a while. Also, quick thing: does it seem like Lily Orchard has an issue with like storylines? Because she's talking about long-winded stories, like longer story arcs, but she seems to be praising episodic stuff over the more.
Possibly. I know there's a video of hers where she says, like, your narrative-based series is gonna suck, here's why, and if we ever do another one of these, I think that might be the logical next choice, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, agreed, because I don't think we can tackle a 4-hour video if we keep stopping every 5 minutes.
Right, like, the problem with us is we talk too much, let's be real, so, and...
That's true. I mean, you're still... I mean, Jazzy, you're still on mute. Somehow we can still hear you, though.
But, no, like, I think the problem is that unlike Lily, where we're like the problem I noticed with Lily, and I'm not trying to get personally insulting here, I think there's an inherent failure from her to just engage with the narrative. Like she tends to a lot of what I notice, and even the stuff she's praising tends to go really out of pocket and like not even be based on what the movie or show is saying. Like even in something like with the Zootopia one where she was praising it, even then she was inferring a lot from stuff that just wasn't there in the movie. Like
agreed.
Like I almost want to say that in the mindset of Lily Orchard when she's watching something she's almost ignoring everything going on in the series. Only some of it's dripping out, and the rest of it is just something she's concocting in her own mind.
And the other thing, too, is that she's very absolutist. Like, even in this conversation, we've been talking, chats disagreed with us, and we're like, oh, yeah, you're right, you have a good point. Like, we're not acting like we know better than anyone else. We're saying, oh, here's my opinion. Oh, you have a good counter-argument. Oh, okay, I'll revise my opinion because that's a good point. I didn't think of that, or that kind of discussion. Right. With Lily, like, it's one or the other. You have to be all on her side or you're against her. And if you're against her,
right, and
you're a Nazi sympathizer, apparently.
And that's not good for media discussion. Like, I've talked about media extensively. Like, a friend and I have been going through a worst picture marathon where we're watching every movie that's won the Razzie for worst picture. Many brain cells have been lost. Thank you for asking. And I think the most interesting thing about that thing is just going back and forth on our opinions, because there's some things one of us says that where it's like the other's like, oh, I didn't think of that while watching this one. So, yeah. And it's interesting because sometimes you get to see some really bad movies in kind of an interesting light. So, and other times they're really bad, but that's beside the point.
And it's important, I think, just to acknowledge that popular opinion isn't always the right opinion, and sometimes your opinion is wrong. It just happens, And with these conversations, I think it's really interesting because you can discuss, you can go back and forth, you can say, hey, here's what I think. Someone else can say, hey, I disagree. And like adults, you can go, okay, you know what? I didn't see it that way. Thank you for pointing that out. This is a dialogue, not a domination of points. I don't know.
Exactly.
Right. Like, there's a reason why one of the most popular review shows on television during, like, the 80s and 90s was literally two people talking with each other.
I prefer that over one person didactically telling them their opinion, honestly. I prefer conversations. I think it's a great thing.
Anyway, we're nearly there. We got like 5 more minutes of this.
Oh god, it's gonna take another hour to finish this.
Let's try to get through this because I want to try and be done with it by 8 my time.
Unpack the terrible things they've done and why, and actually trying to be better people is extremely compelling. I mean, that's basically my primary professional ambition right now. I can relate, to an extent at least. It's a general running problem of the stakes getting more serious, but the ethical framework of the story not following along with it.
Stop teasing Catra and get to your opinions on Catra. I want to tell you how wrong you are.
The framework of friendship can solve any problem, which is fine when your ex from camp comes back and yells at your girlfriend, less so when some weirdo starts trying to rewrite the very fabric of reality itself so she can rule as an oligarch, and even less so when other nations are about to go to war.
I'll agree
with
that
each other.
Starlight
It tries
Glimmer
to
wasn't
continue
exactly the best
tackling more and
written
more adult
character.
problems while still using the framework of a child. And speaking of this framework, a common refrain is that it's not a bad thing to teach children to know that people aren't born evil and can have their minds changed, and while in a vacuum this is an okay lesson, in practice, like everything else, it's reductionist. In the same way fandom likes to present one particular set of tropes as the best and only way to do something, they also apply this framework to real life. Just because people can have their minds changed doesn't mean that they will. It harkens back to that problem of left-tube and debate bros and their obsession with recruiting and de-radicalizing. While you can de-radicalize some Twitter ghoul, that doesn't mean you can de-radicalize anyone. People who get de-radicalized by debate bros were never really radicalized to begin with. Their political engagement was largely retweeting, voting, and nodding along to footage of a coup attempt. Those people are not politically engaged, and a YouTube video can nudge them left. That is assuming you are not also the same kind of Twitter ghoul, which is not something you can guarantee from LeftTube. But basically, anyone more committed to right-wing politics than just watching debates like soap operas isn't going to be swayed, like, at all. But that fantasy continues to exist. A lot of people want to be Daryl Davis, just without the massive risk to their own personal safety.
Where did this
and I
come
feel this
from?
Is why
Okay, to an extent, I can see her argument here. I think I don't get why you're talking about when you're discussing children's media, but I can see the argument in theory. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the problem is you're talking about this would be an interesting conversation to have with media more aimed at adults that kind of go for again, you're talking about Lily, you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole here when it comes to video topics. What are you doing?
And I will say this too, from what I've read from interviews, a lot of She-Ra's themes are about deprogramming from toxic belief systems, and you can watch the show and visibly see that, like politics, religion, sexism. We mentioned internalized racism among white people like ourselves. Yeah, those are things you have to deprogram and work at as you get over that. But I don't get what it has to do with
what? Talk about Catra already! Let me tell you how wrong you are!
Yeah, what's any of this have to do with My Little Pony?
Or I was promised Catra bullshit. Where is it?
You're kind of getting it right now, Jazzy. I hope you realize that.
I mean, that's what I figured was the case. Yeah, I figured they were leading up to Catra being like, oh, Catra, she's programmed by society, but ultimately speaking, she made the right choices in the end. But
I guess this is what I'm arguing against. Let's finish this, and then I can go on my big spiel about Catra. I'm disappointed.
Jazzy,
I'm sad.
I will expect that.
Redemption arcs are so
I am a
frequently
sad
written.
Jazzy
There needs to
today.
be a real care given for all the characters involved, both the villains themselves and the people they've hurt. Are you making a good decision with this that follows the good through line for the villain in question? Or are you just ruining what was previously a fun and menacing villain that was already building up to a confrontation that now feels anticlimactic? The question regarding a redemption arc is this a good story to tell, and is this a good arc for the characters? And the answer that stories like this give is a resounding, who cares? They don't care if it works for the character. They just want the catharsis of living vicariously through the idea, and what makes a satisfying story doesn't really matter to them. Redeeming.
What are you talking about?
You can be critical of how they wrote something, but to basically accuse them of not caring how they wrote is bullshit. I guess this is where I have to argue in favor of Catra for a bit.
Yeah,
the thing I've been wanting to do this whole video, and I feel cheated. I am sad. Anyway, so with Catra, there was a lot of care put into that character. The whole point is, this is a character who's been radicalized since birth not only kind of radicalized to believe this way of the Horde, but also has kind of lived it in her own life, because not only has she been taught this way is what is correct, but also kind of lives at the blunt end of it through the abuses of Shadow Weaver,
100%, yeah.
And there's a lot of nuance in this character. There's a lot of scenes in She-Ra that really focus on what she's going through, how every horrible thing she does comes back to bite her. This is particularly the case in season 4, where she's constantly pushing away those closest to her, and to the point where by the end she's alone.
Yeah, nothing of the initial break with Adora.
Right, and I'll say acting like the confrontation between Catra and Adora at the end of season 1 is anticlimactic is no, it was still a satisfying fight that got the job done, and it was a good end to season 1, which had no guarantees of getting a follow-up, so...
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance with Catra's character. And in each season, she's in a different place than she was at the start of the season, you know? She ends with her arc progressing in one way, either for better or for worse, and it's always interesting. Her redemption is natural in that sense.
Right, and the thing is, so Catra is a very good depiction of depression, I feel, because she is constantly going through so many phases, especially in regards to pushing those closest to her away, especially folks like Adora or Scorpia, who were always trying to be there for her.
I would say also complex PTSD, too. Like, there's a lot of trauma that she undergoes, and that fuels her negative actions. Her response to pain is by a fight. You know, some people have a fight or flight instinct where they either run or they fight, and she fights everything.
Right,
when it is destructive to her. You know, like it's very tragic.
Right.
Most of her.
So you want to talk about how, like, Lily wants to talk about how characters like Zuko or Peridot aren't really villains because they are ultimately the products of their own, of this horrible environment that molded them that way. And that is an absolutely fine view to have. I disagree, but it is a fine view to have. So here's my question. Why is this mindset that folks who are ultimately molded by these horrible environments that lead them to doing evil things, why does it apply to Riku, Zuko, Peridot, and so forth, but doesn't apply to these others, especially in regards to Catra? And again, I feel like I could argue this point if there was a point about Catra, which you seem to be building up, but I feel cheated.
It's weird, like she alluded to Catra throughout this whole discussion, but never directly discussed Catra's themes. Like, the way she discussed this, it's clear based on the visuals and the context she's talking about Catra, but by never directly connecting it to Catra, it comes across as kind of like saying this is what the character is, but never grounding it in a core argument.
Yeah, I feel like that's also a really big critique of Lily's work, especially when she's going about like roundabout subjects like redemption arcs. Unless she is talking about one specific topic, she'll make examples of them in the visual stuff, trying to be all like, oh, see this is what I'm also talking about. But 9 times out of 10, she'll just say it in a roundabout way and use the visuals to try and immediately just say, yes, this character is what I am talking about here. And I feel like that's the coward's way of doing this.
Agreed.
That's just not good video. That's just not good video essay writing. I'm sorry.
I would know that.
Or
I
any essay writing.
I would agree with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because I've done video essays for a year.
I would say
it's
her
like
best argument is Riku. Because
yes,
she actually has a case-by-case point. She goes, okay, here's this scene, here's this scene, here's this point in the game. And she goes, okay, here's where his arc is in this game, here's where he isn't. Even when she's wrong, at least she's connecting it to the concrete material of the story.
And I have to wonder if because, like, Catra's not the only character who was alluded to but never talked about. There was also Hunter, obviously, who we're seeing a lot of clips of.
Yes.
It's like, why would you show clips of these characters and not go over them along, especially since, you know, these are potentially good characters to, even if you don't like them and think they're bad examples of redemption arcs, these are still characters worth adding into the list, considering they're often used as big examples of, like, redemption arcs and so forth. Like, why would you allude to that and not use it? It is like, if you were doing like a regular essay, it would be like if you mentioned them in the opening paragraph and then never mention them again.
Yeah, and sometimes the last few points you mention in an essay are the hardest hitting points. In general, I find that's my hardest hitting points at the very end. Anyway, let's keep going with this because we only have like 2 minutes.
Yeah, let's try to finish. Let's try to finish
because they think they can, and that because they can, they have to. It's part of an ongoing boiling down of stories to merely being lists of tropes like they're a fic on AO3. They don't care if it works or not as long as it's there, especially when it's in service of guilty thirst. I'm not the first person to point out that the rise of self-described villain fuckers who simultaneously want a nasty, evil, bad white boy to thirst over, but also want him to be a poor little meow meow so they can thirst over them guilt-free, because for whatever reason, the people in fandom who have the darkest and edgiest tastes are also weirdly insecure and think
Guys, I
everybody
think
else is
Lily
judging
lost
them
the
for it.
plot.
And when you're working from that contradictory framework, there's a bias toward making your villains as nasty as possible for as long as possible for max humiliation fetish, and then very quickly walking all of it back at the end so you don't have to have an uncomfortable conversation with yourself. It would be an understatement to say these people.
Why is she saying
What?
Catra is walking it back? Catra's every arc where Catra ends it, she ends the next step moving forward from that. It's a walking back. She's never in the same place she's ever been before.
Not
the end of her arc.
No,
She's always in a
she
new
gets-
position.
I feel like,
Arguably,
okay,
yeah.
I think I finally noticed the core issue with this video essay. I've discovered it. I have a big brain moment.
Inform us, Professor Jazzy, what it is that you have discovered?
Lily took 2 separate video essay topics and mashed them together. One about how...
villains?
Yeah, one about, like, why these redemption arcs didn't work, but also how apparently villain fuckers are to blame, I guess. I don't know. These are 2... What are you... These cover similar ground, but these are 2 different topics. What are you doing?
Imagine if she ever played Baldur's Gate.
I
I wonder if she went Minthara.
Let's
Or
finish this,
Starion.
please.
All right.
I'm so done.
Jazzy, be strong. It's only a minute and a half. It'll only take us another hour to finish.
Will have a fetish. It covers the whole spectrum of redeeming the giant woman in heels to sexy cat girl tortures her crush to actual hybristophilia. The difference between someone who simps over Kylo Ren and someone who simps over Ted Bundy is the same as the difference between asking...
Aren't those the Charles Manson? Like, it's not even Ted Bundy.
Wait. Is she suggesting that people who simped over Kylo Ren are not so different from those who simped over Bundy? Because I could tell you a huge difference between those 2 right off the bat.
But I'm pretty sure those
One
are
is
the
an
Manson girls. Those aren't the Bundy
right.
girls.
Yeah,
Right,
this
one-
is also...
One
This is
a
also... Oh, you go, Jazzy.
like one is a real murderer. The other is a fictional character. Why is it a problem if someone simps over a fictional villain? I don't someone explain this to me like I'm stupid, because I feel stupid right now.
Also, why
I'll
would
tell you the point, actually. The unfortunate point towards this is that is another big thing with Lily Orchard videos in general. She makes a lot of big, sweeping allegations towards people and groups as well online, like what we're talking about right now. But the issue with that is that the kinds of takes that she makes with that sort of thing are just so wildly salacious that you think it's a parody. But this is what I feel like it's that meme image from like that one episode of South Park where they talk about Scientology. This is what Lily Orchard actually believes.
Genuinely. I'm
like,
also stunned by the fact that you confuse Ted Bundy's fangirls with the Manson family. But, you'd think those are 2 separate issues divided by an entire decade.
And again, what do they have to do with people who simp over Kylo goddamn Ren? I'll have you know Adam Driver is a very handsome man, and it's completely understandable why people simped for Kylo Ren.
I will also say this, the simps for Kylo Ren actually did produce art of themselves. There are multiple published novels out there that are just Kylo and Rey fanfiction, with the names shaved off. Something productive did come of that, even if I have no interest in reading it.
Right, it's just, it's weird, because for the most part, this essay had actual structure, and I was gonna give that to Lily for a second, that you did at least structure it, and you had points to make, and it was easy to follow.
Right at the end.
But then you had small bits of unhinged shit coming out, like the calling Rebecca Sugar racist and all this stuff that had nothing to do with anything. And then it all just collapsed. It's like watching the Titanic of video essays.
In the last minute, this video torpedoed itself. Before it was just normal Lily Orchard shenanigans. Now it's gone into real history where you're not comprehending key historical details, and that drives me nuts.
All right, let's get this done.
We got 1 minute left.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Your partner to spank you and asking your partner to actually break your arm. The same fetish at different extremes. This is the entire reason true crime is so popular with people. Because after a while, fictional villains don't provide the same thrill, so they look for real people and treat it like fiction.
What?
They will
Are you saying there's a pipeline between
person's pain, suffering, and misery.
That Catra Ted Bundy pipeline, big guys.
This isn't even about redemption arcs anymore. Now you're just talking about people who simp over just straight up villain. What are you talking about?
In fairness, you ever think about how much that Ed Gein resembles Riku from Kingdom Hearts? What is this video?
This is my villain. This is my villain origin story.
Okay.
Where the fuck you go with this, Lily?
Here's the thing. Redemption arcs didn't turn me into a real life villain. Watching fucking Lily Orchard videos did.
I think this video has caused us psychological harm for permanent, and all of you too. You're all damaged now because of this.
No. I will say this. I have been psychologically damaged long before this.
Same.
I watched Lily's videos when she was still like way early into her YouTube career. I can tell you right now, she was always like this in her videos.
Yeah,
her structure of videos has always had this problem. And long tangent, gonna try and make this as shortened as possible. Essentially, the problem with Lily is that her structure, she starts off pretty well with a decent concept, and then by the end she goes off on such a wild as hell tangent that you're just thinking, are you trying to start a new video right now, Lily? You could just make a new video off this topic. You can stop. You can end the video now. You don't have to try and go off into a wildly different topic. But she doesn't stop. She just torpedoes the entire concept of the video to talk about something wildly different.
Lily, the train has stopped. The train has stopped. Get the fuck off the tracks. You're derailing it.
I feel like I've lost whatever brain cell I had before starting this video. It's gone into just remission.
Let's just finish this. I know we keep saying this, but yeah,
we're nearly done.
The same way they treat a fictional characters, as a vector for their entertainment. It would not be unfair to call this attitude selfish, especially if left unchecked. This isn't to say that anyone who wasn't bothered by the diamonds or Lilith is going to turn out to be the same level of deranged as the women who dressed up as Ted Bundy's victims to voice support for him at his trial in front of those people's families. I think it's actually easy to tell, if you will, honestly. Are you regularly whining about purity culture? If not, you're gonna be fine. But I think the way many otherwise good tropes get co-opted by fandom and fetishes is something worth talking about. Because redemption arcs are good, but whatever this is sure as hell isn't a redemption arc. You know, I started talking about what makes a good redemption arc and started seriously unpacking why we moved away from it. And I didn't think I could connect Andy DeMeo to true crime ghouls, but apparently that's a skill I have now. Well, I'm fucking tired of it.
No, it's not. You didn't connect it well at all. Okay, so here is my ultimate take. I'm gonna say my ultimate takeaway, and then I'm gonna suggest we wrap it up. Okay. My ultimate takeaway from this video is that because I'm a fan of Catra, and I love her arc, and I love everything about the character and related to her and her personal struggles of finding the good within herself, that means I will become the Joker. I think I got it. I think I figured it out.
Okay.
I will say...
Sorry. Go for it. Go for it.
I'm gonna say this. Especially with this format, it feels like Lily, throughout her entire career, has essentially just been trying to do Jimquisition, but with cartoons instead of, video games. And you can definitely tell with that bit at the end that she's really trying to go for that whole style. In fact, she's tried to do Yahtzee style for a good few years with that sort of topic as well. So it's very telling that she's trying to do it like this. But I feel like the thing that she really doesn't get is that you don't wildly just go off on completely different topics, go wow, I really just did that, didn't I? And then just end the video with that. No, Lily. For fuck's sake, you had points. You had legitimate points, but you could never connect them all together into making it, all make sense by the end, which is the point of why you make a video like this. And, you had genuine arguments here. I'm not going to take that away. But the fact that you went as far as to be all oh, Puritan culture, this is why fans and fetishes and this is why we don't have proper redemption arcs anymore. It's just people just wanting bad characters to be good because they're horny for them and they don't want to feel bad about it. Absolutely fuck off with that argument. Absolutely fuck off with that idea. Puritan culture should not be an argument for that sort of thing. And the fact that she basically pretty much based this entire video around that argument is just really, really off base.
I think my big takeaway from this is that Lily's a very immature person. Like, I don't want to make judgments about her at all, obviously. I want to just say what I want to say, and I want to make sure it's not about her product, not her personhood, but, like, this just feels like an extreme that someone who's inexperienced with people would make, you know? Because, like, to say that true crime enthusiasts are the same as Ted Bundy worshippers or sympathizers.
And people who like Catra.
and people who like Catra. They're all the same in Lily's mind because she's looking at it from a very black and white scenario. She's looking at it as though everything I don't like is evil, and everything I do like is good. And if I like it, that must mean it's good. And because of the overlaps in terms of... Because Catra and Riku and Zuko, they share a lot of the same tropes and ideas. There are a lot of the same story components that apply to Catra that apply to Riku. The problem is Lily is looking at this going, well, the old thing is better because it's old. Because I was younger and I can defend it because I have more enthusiasm for it. But my cynical approach to this kid's media as an adult means I look at the faults more. I look and search for the imperfections. And it's very immature because... And I'm seeing people say in chat that I'm saying Lily is stupid. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying she's stupid. I'm saying she's immature. It's a big difference. She's looking at it from a perspective of black and white, from centralizing what makes me happy versus what makes other people happy, and what makes other people happy versus make me happy is bad. There's a lot of complexity there, and it's very upsetting because you can't have an argument with someone like that. You can't debate someone like that. If they approach it from the perspective that everything you do is bad, and everything that they don't like is bad, and not, let's say, a difference of opinion, or more nuanced, or more complicated, or even like saying, hey, you can look at it from a different perspective, see where they're coming from, disagree with it fundamentally, but you have the knowledge to go, okay, here's where we disagree, here's where we can discuss it, here's what I can't discuss with you, here's what I can compromise, here's what I can't compromise. That nuance is very adult and mature, and I feel like Lily's perspective is very restrictive, so because it doesn't address that. Going away from the facts, the parts where she's just outright wrong, which she is quite frequently, in this video she demonstrates actual understanding of some media, but the further it is from her personal childhood, the less understanding of it she becomes. And I think it demonstrates, I don't know, something. It demonstrates something.
Yeah. It establishes the idea that while Lily can make really good points, she doesn't really know how to bring it all together by the end. And like, as one of my favorite internet personalities, Catra, once said it, the ending is paramount. It's if you can't bring all the concepts together throughout your video and really tie them all together into what your point is, what the fuck are you even saying at that point?
I'll give one final word on this, is that there were some good points raised. There were even times where I surprisingly agreed with her. I got more positivity out of this experience than I was honestly expecting, and to be quite frank, that makes me happy. Yeah. But it's all kind of collapsed when you go into such an unhinged argument that had nothing to do with anything you were saying, and still feel ripped off that there was no dedicated Catra segment. God damn it, I feel lied to.
I agree. But let's at least acknowledge one important thing, that none of us here would ever be so blind to worship any piece of media that much. We have a mature adult connection with media here, and we would never go out of our way to blindly love something too much. Never, ever, in no means ever, under any circumstances. We are adults here.
God damn it, Ant!
Nice job bringing that back, Ant.
I'm done.
Listen, we are mature here.
I'm done.
So, before I send you all to therapy for the next year, before you decide to ever live stream with me again, would you mind telling us where we can find you, or what you guys are up to in the future?
You want to go first, Clay?
Okay. You can find me here on youtube.com underneath at Chloe Sunflora, VA. I am also on Twitter under that same handle. And if you want to have some actual proper discussions about some of the things that were talked about in this video, you can find them on with constructive criticism in there as well as some positive discussions with them as well. You can find them on my YouTube channel. This is actually pretty good timing with that one. Going to be releasing an in-transition video on Steven Universe tomorrow with that one from there. And I actually raised some pretty good points in that one as well. And honestly, I feel like it's a lot better of a talking point than whatever the hell we just watched.
If you want to find me, you can find me under Jazzy Oliver on YouTube. I mostly just do shit posts as well as live streams where I watch all the episodes of a series I currently voice in, Animate Insanity. It's a lot of fun, especially since I wasn't in most of this series until recently, so it's interesting experiencing it for the first time and providing my own snarky commentary that I do with full permission from the creators. I'm very happy I can do this with no limits to the shit I can say.
100%.
But you can also find me on Twitter under Lady Jazzington. I just post random stuff. I'm kind of minimizing stuff I'm posting lately just for the sake of my own mental health, but I occasionally post some funny funs.
You're definitely smarter than I am. I post way too much on Twitter. By the way, both of their YouTube handles are in the description of this live stream. You can go to the description right now and click on it. That should be easy to access, ideally. And for myself, as you guys, if you have reached my YouTube channel, you know where to find me on YouTube. Tomorrow, I will be debuting a video that I'm sure won't put me in hot water with any culture warriors whatsoever. We'll discuss the X-Men and media and why the X-Men has always been and always will be very politically aware. And
yay!
I think that's all we have to say in this matter. I think we've all talked ourselves enough for the last 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And my voice is dying on me. So if I say another word, I may have irreparable harm to my vocal cords. So
please go and get some water.
I've already consumed every beverage in this room, so we're good to go there. All right. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.